Ladies and gentlemen, it is Monday, October 27th, 2025. This is what's coming up on the Owen Report today. No shortage of news today. Loaded here on a Monday. We'll be lucky if we can get all of it in to a 3-hour transmission. Yes, the government is still shut down. And now the impacts and the implications of said shutdown are soon to be felt more so than they have been to this day. What does that mean for you? The industries that are going to see this, if you want to call them industries, but it's true, the industries that are going to be hit by this first are going to be your grocery stores, or I guess anywhere where they take food stamps. And I was thinking about it, and it's not nearly as evil as some of the other industries that get subsidized by taxpayer dollars. But you know what? They kind of do get subsidized, don't they? But it's really more of the big brands that get subsidized by the SNAP benefits. And that's why you see all the lobbyists paying all this money on D.C., specifically paying Republicans in D.C., and paying conservative influencers on social media to prop up the SNAP benefits, because these big corporations that produce the junk food that goes into the grocery stores, they're being subsidized. Oh, isn't that funny? Isn't it amazing? All these things that the American people subsidize are now seeing the most money pouring in for social media influence and digital influence campaigns. Isn't that amazing? We subsidize the nation of Israel. So you got all of these people being paid to promote the pro-Israel propaganda. We subsidize all of these major food corporations. We subsidize them with the SNAP benefits, $8 billion a month. And then people go out and spend taxpayer dollars on sodas and junk food and everything else because we subsidize these things. And then they pay digital influencers to promote it. See how that works? So we're going to talk about that, how it's all going to be impacted by the government shutdown. And then there's some other geopolitical news that kind of actually relates to that we'll be covering as well. Trump is set to meet with Xi Jinping before the end of the month, and it looks like the trade negotiations, the strategy that he was engaged in on this trip to Asia so far has been a success. And while I don't look at the stock market as a measuring stick or an indicator of the U.S. economy as far as the health of the economy is concerned, but I do think you can measure what big money is anticipating as far as the economy is concerned. So I would say the American economy is still in a bad place. But it looks like the big money and the people in the know that are involved with all of this stuff, looks like they're betting that Trump is going to come out on top of these deals. And you are going to have record stock prices today. We'll see where it closes. But that tells you that the big money, the big investors, the billionaire class, they think Trump is actually going to win on these trade negotiations with Xi Jinping. And the deals that he's secured with the other Asian countries before meeting with Xi Jinping would indicate that it looks like Trump does have the upper hand in the negotiations to be had, I guess, either later this week is what we're anticipating. I don't know. They're saying that they'll have a deal by the end of the week, but we shall see. So we'll have all of that coming up. It's Halloween week. I don't have anything themed here today. Maybe we need to do some Halloween-themed something. We will have some Halloween-themed news, all right? We do have some economic news, aside from what I already mentioned as well, coming up. The geopolitical. We're so loaded as well. I've got some other odds and ends that we're going to get to today. And if we have the time, I'm going to try to clear all of our leftovers. If we have time, we're going to try to clear all the leftovers. A ton of leftovers from last week that really it's worth covering, but when you run out of time, you run out of time. So all of that and more coming up on today's Owen Report.
This news update was brought to you by OwenSchroyer.store. the official site for Owen Report merchandise.
Ladies and gentlemen, your new home for political play-by-play, the Owen Report.
You guys remember Howard Dean? Yeah. You guys remember Howard Dean? Some might be too young to remember Howard Dean. But I guess AOC had her Howard Dean moment this weekend at a Moron, is that his name? Moron, Mamdani? The big Mamdani. There was a big rally for Mamdani. The big Democrats were there, and Bernie Sanders was there. By the way, what's up with Bernie? He's got a whole thing going on. Something is going on with Bernie Sanders, and nobody is talking about it. He combed his hair for the first time ever for a TV interview last week. I've never seen Bernie Sanders comb his hair. I don't mean that as a joke. It's kind of funny. But I've never seen Bernie Sanders comb his hair. He's always got the wild hair going, right? He's always got the hair sticking up a bunch of different directions. And I get it. I got a little wild hair myself. Some days I got to slick it back like today when it's too wild. Other days it falls nicely. I don't really have to worry about it. Today was a day I had to put some water on there. I was going crazy. I get it, Bernie. I've got a little more hair than you, but I get it. But he's combing his hair. He's got a comb job that he's working with, a little slick back of his own. And then Bernie pops up on the stage this week. He's got like a whole new thing going. He's got did they do hair implants? Is he wearing a top? Does he got a little hat? He's got a little hair hat going on. It seems like it's thicker. It's wider now. What is going on? Bernie Sanders. He's got a whole new vibe to him. He feels like this is his final. Here's what it is, though. Aside from whatever's going on with the look, Bernie Sanders feels like this is his last big thrust in American politics. It's his last big thrust. Now, he may or may not think he can run for president again, but he definitely sees, with AOC on the rise and now Mamdani on the rise, he sees how he can insert himself back into mainstream Democrat politics. And who knows? Maybe try for another run. Just maybe. The Democrats might not have a choice to let him run. Now, they'll never let him win a primary. They've already made that clear. They'll never let Bernie get past the primary process, but they feel like the party that the apparatus of the party that is the Democrats, they feel like they have to at least allow Bernie Sanders some turf, some territory, because he's too popular. So it looks like, okay, Bernie, come on back, come to the stage, rally some of the young, disenfranchised liberals out there, and we'll give you the stage. We'll make sure we get some campaign donations for you. But the new look, it's a new look Bernie Sanders. Where are all the conspiracy theorists? Is it a clone? Is it someone else in a mask, a CIA mask, going undercover for the Democrat communist campaigns? Where are all the conspiracy theories? Nobody's talking about Bernie's new look. I feel like we're not getting what we deserve out of this. But I digress. It's not really important. It's not really important. Now, getting into the news of the day. So, the government shutdown continues. We're still celebrating as we get closer and closer to the record. Government shutdown, day 27. Day 27. Now, as I told you, once you get to day 30, things are going to start to get a little interesting. Everybody's starting to kind of brace themselves for impact here. Now, if you're traveling, if you're flying right now, commercial, you might run into some problems. I would even anticipate that. I would probably bet on that. If you're going to be flying around, that you might have problems. Get a direct flight. Okay. I would say make sure that you get a direct flight. Otherwise, you're probably going to be dealing with issues, I would say. That's what I would say. But that'll be more of a nuance and an obstacle. That's not really affecting too many people's bottom lines. But you will have people complaining when it comes to these delays. But the big one's going to be SNAP. Now, we covered this last week, and then I explained why you have these conservatives and specifically even Republicans, the leadership of the party, and they're coming out and they're pro SNAP now. They're pro SNAP, they're pro welfare. You've never really seen it from Republicans before, but hey, we're playing a game of political football here with this government shutdown, and we're politicians, so we're greedy pigs and liars. So yeah, we'll take the lobbyists' money to go against conservative values. Of course, we're Republicans. We're dirtbags, just like the ones on the left. We're not as dirty, and our bags aren't as big, but we're still dirtbags. SNAP funding expiration set to hit 40 million people. So the real message, if the Republican Party was actually conservative, by definition, by the standards, by the expectations, if the Republican Party was actually conservative, which it's not, at large, the Republican Party is probably liberal, I would say, and not even libertarian. More even liberal progressive than they are libertarian conservative. That's the Republican Party. So the Republicans should be coming out and talking about independence. The Republicans should be coming out and talking about conservative values. And they should be talking about why you as an American should not be dependent on government money to feed yourself or your family. That should be the messaging. And then if you really want to show this an outreach effort, let's say, and really this is a perfect opportunity, quite frankly. And this is why the Republicans are going to blow it. Nobody likes watching an 0-2 fastball go right down the plate with 2 outs and the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth more than the Republicans. Nobody in the history, maybe of politics, but let's just talk American politics. In modern American politics, nobody takes a fastball right down the plate with an 0-2 count and the bases loaded with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth more than Republicans do. And that's what they're about to do on this deal. Where is it that Republicans lose every single time? Major metropolitan areas, inner cities. Where is it that Republicans refuse to even go? They won't even go there. Many times they won't even run a race. They won't even campaign. Major metropolitan areas and inner cities. Where is the vast majority, if not every single one, of the 40 million people that's about to lose their SNAP benefits? Where are they living? Where are they located? Major metropolitan areas and inner cities. And what are the Republicans doing? Instead, they're taking money from the big food industries. They're taking money from the lobbyists. Same with the fake conservatives on social media. They all get paid to do it. It's all pay for play. And we're all capitalists here. So don't come screaming at me. I'm not demonizing you. I'm just telling you what's going on. And I'll just say this as just kind of an aside. I learned a lot more about this and some other stuff this morning that will blow your mind. Now, I'm not at liberty to discuss this yet. It was all told to me off record, and this is very high-level stuff. But it's like When we found out about these digital influence campaigns and these accounts that take the money, again, I'm not demonizing them. We're all capitalists. That's fine. There's a lot more going on, ladies and gentlemen. A lot more going on. And a lot of these, let me try to say this. Let me try to execute this perfectly. A lot of the big benefactors of the Trump administration, which could benefit all of us. And I always urge you, pay attention to what I'm saying. Pay attention to what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying, not what you think I'm saying. Pay attention to what I'm saying. A lot of these big companies that have kind of risen here in the second Trump administration, would you be surprised to find out that they have consultants and consulting fees coming from some of your big social media influencers? I better stop right there. I'm going to stop right there. Let me get back to my point. So, what should the Republicans be doing right now as SNAP is about to expire? And who knows what the Trump administration is going to do as far as these benefits in the future are concerned. Conservatives, a conservative principle, a conservative value, a conservative response would be no more. It's done. It's over. It's over. The U.S. taxpayer is done subsidizing all of these companies that have the lobbyists on D.C. making sure that their products are eligible for SNAP and other welfare programs. And the average American is already concerned enough about feeding their own family. They don't need to be subsidizing somebody else's family that's not working in the inner city. Sounds a little cold, but this is the truth. So what should the Republicans be doing? This is actually a golden opportunity for the Republican Party to go into the major metropolitan areas, to go into these deep blue inner cities and be doing town halls or any type of campaign events. And you can target all of these people that have the SNAP funding and say, look, you can frame it however you want, blame it on the Democrats, whatever. But the point is, you have now a golden opportunity to get their attention and to get them in a room and to have them listen to what conservative values are and what Republican politics represents. And they're not going to do it, by the way, but this is a perfect opportunity. You're telling me you could look at a Curtis Sliwa. You could look at some of these other deep blue districts where a Republican dares to even run for mayor or the local House seat, whatever it is. And you have a town hall and you say, look, if your SNAP benefits are about to expire, we're having a town hall here. This guy's going to run for mayor, whatever, bring in a Republican. You can blame it on the Democrats if you want to play that football, and that's fair enough. You have the evidence to blame it on the Democrats. But think about it. How many of these people have never heard from a Republican in their life? They've never heard a Republican speak. They don't know anything about conservative politics, values, principles, none of it. And now you have a golden opportunity to go into these blue areas with the backdrop of the SNAP benefits, and you can actually have these people listen to you talk for the first time in their lives. In their lives. And the rest of it's up to you. The rest of it's up to you. You can sit these people down and you can say, ma'am, sir, whatever it is. How long have you been living in, let me use St. Louis as an example, where I'm from. Say, ma'am, how long have you been living in St. Louis? Oh, well, I've been living here 50 years. Okay, 50 years. And do you vote? I do vote. Okay. And who do you vote for? Well, I vote for Democrats. You vote for Democrats. All right. So you've been in St. Louis 50 years, and you've been voting for Democrats your whole life. Would you say your life has improved? No, it's not improved. Would you say the economy is getting better? No, I don't think so. Would you say the education system is getting better? No, it's getting worse. And just overall lifestyle and safety and everything. Is it getting worse or better? It's getting worse. It's not good. Say, okay. Well, you've been voting Democrat your whole life, and the Democrats have been in charge of this city your whole life, and you just admitted everything's been getting worse. Have you ever considered voting for a Republican? Well, gee, no, I guess not, And I was told they were racist. Well, it's not true, actually. It's not true. And if you really wanted to get strategic about it, yeah, go ahead. Lean into the identity politics. Find a black woman, find a black man that's interested in running and say, hey, we've got an opportunity right now to get you in front of people who have never, ever heard from a Republican before in their life. And you know what? It might help. It might help if they are black. Let's just be honest. If you're going to go speak to a crowd of black people, might help that they're black. So if you have somebody in these areas, and I know they exist in Chicago, I know they have existed in the past in St. Louis. I don't know how much energy there is there right now. And you can have a room full of people that have voted Democrats their entire lives. And you could have a Republican now in that room, and you could flip just like that an entire room of them. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Now, there's no vision in the Republican Party right now. There is none. Do you even know who the RNC chair is? No. I'll give you 10 guesses. I'll give you 100 guesses. You probably couldn't get it. There's no vision. And instead of the Republican Party looking at this opportunity, which is going to be a finite amount of time, because the government's going to reopen again, and the odds are the SNAP benefits are going to start being doled out again. So you have a finite window of time to get a bunch of Democrat voters in a room and flip them to vote Republican. And who knows? It might actually change something. It might actually make a difference. And if you can flip some of these cities red, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Because really, the Republicans should be strategically focused on making sure the Democrats never get into power again. But they don't do that. That's what the Democrats do. The Republicans get into office and then they lay back and figure out, how can we make more money? How can we make more money? How can we make sure that our biggest donors, our biggest lobbyists feel like they're getting a return on investment? That's how the Republicans think, and this is why they can rarely even hold power. Even when somebody like Trump is in office, they can't barely hold on to power. And this is why, because there's no vision. There's no strategy. They're not even conservatives when it comes to principles and values and the actual applications of how they use their power. They're not conservatives. So they're going to blow this. And then they're going to come out and they're going to spit in your face. And all of a sudden, they're going to be campaigning for SNAP and welfare. You say, what? Well, yeah, because they're in a political football game, don't you know? That's what it's all about. So Sean Duffy comes out and makes this statement on the current situation we have with air traffic controllers because the government shutdown is now affecting that industry. So Sean Duffy this weekend came out and said this.
And this could really circulate and be very dangerous. That's why I mentioned this is the choke point. So the bottom line here is you've got fewer people working on the job. Is it even safe to fly right now, Secretary?
So that's job number one, Maria. And again, I need my controllers focused on the airspace, not about the finances at home. They'll tell me there is that seepage of how are they going to deal with those finances. My job is to keep the airspace safe. And so if I don't feel like I have enough controllers or enough controllers that are focused, we will slow down traffic. We will stop traffic. And that's why you see the delays in the system. And the job number one is, again, get people to where they're going safely. And if it's not on time, well, call the Democrats. Call Chuck Schumer if you're frustrated that you have a staffing shortage and your flight's 3 hours delayed or your flight is canceled. Call Chuck, call Senate Democrats, because this is the reason why.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a rough week ahead for travel, and this could really circulate and be.
Okay, yeah, so blame the Democrats. All right, that's fine. So again, though, it sounds to me like they're anticipating they're anticipating some delays. So if you're traveling, I would say anticipate delays. I would try to get a direct flight, because if you don't, it's almost probably a guarantee you're going to get a delay if you don't get a direct flight. And Duffy is actually pointing out a very important issue here that goes beyond just air traffic controllers. And this is not directed at Duffy. He was answering a question. But it's just like, this is why I continue to fall back on the same mindset, which is, this is what the average American is going through right now. The average American is wondering how they're going to be paying their next bills, And we're not talking about air traffic controllers or government workers or people that are on the welfare program that are going through the same thing. This is what the average American goes through. And so there's kind of this attempt, I think, from the Republicans, but also obviously from the Democrats. There's this attempt of, it's like we're trying to score sympathy points, or we're trying to score empathy points. It's like, oh, we know it's tough and we know you're going through it. But it's always with these political football issues. It's like, this is what the average American has been going through for the last 5 years. And we're not talking about government employees. We're not talking about welfare recipients. We're talking about the average American that is now living paycheck to paycheck, even six-figure earners living paycheck to paycheck. So it's like, this is the frustration. And so he talks about, I need my air traffic controllers focused on what they're doing at work. I need my air traffic controllers, I need their head clear. I need their conscience clear. I can't have them worrying about finances and everything else. And that's totally true. A lot of people can relate to that in many different ways. But we all kind of get what he's saying. It's like, yeah, it's a lot harder when you're going through financial issues. It's a lot harder to maybe stay focused at work or not bring it home with you, or just keep a clear head on your shoulders, a positive head on your shoulders. But this isn't just for air traffic control people. This isn't just for people on welfare. This is the average American for the last 5 years that's been ignored by Washington, D.C. And now it's more of an overwhelming phenomenon. They feel ignored by this administration. They feel ignored by the Trump administration. Now, of course, Trump's coming out and talking about how great the economy is. And I think I pretty much will call this a Ruth shot. I thought I had it pulled up here. Now I can't find it. But either way, it was, oh, you know what? I think it's in a video, actually. Trump talking about how great the economy is. I think it's on my video list here. Let me see. Yeah. So here's President Trump during the Asia trip. He's still on it. Having good success, by the way. Here's Trump talking about how we have the strongest economy in the world right now.
Very good. Very good. We have great financial numbers. We have an economy that is going to be the strongest ever. We hit a new stock market high. And we're doing great. This country is doing, I think very soon I can say, better than ever before.
So time will tell as far as the better than ever before. But again, it's the same issue. He points to the stock market for economic success, and it is a complete misfire. It is a complete swing and a miss. Now, I think there's a couple things happening here. For whatever reason, Trump is getting less access to, and by the way, this is what we were talking about all last week. So Trump just completely proved us right here. We said Trump is measuring the strength and success of the economy solely based off the stock market. That's what we were really theorizing and leaning into last week. Now I think it's just totally confirmed. So there's a couple, here's basically what's going on. Trump has never been more isolated. He's never been more gatekept. And this might be something that he invited because of maybe some overwhelming chaos from the first administration, or this may be something that has kind of just happened through osmosis with the new leadership and now Susie Wiles running the White House. But Trump has never been more isolated. He's hearing less and less from the average American now than probably in his entire life. When he used to run around his businesses, his buildings, his golf courses, everything, he would talk to caddies and chefs and maids and just people that would go through engaging in commerce. And he was more in tune with the average American. He had a better understanding of what the average American was thinking and feeling. But it's almost completely gone now. He's been totally cut off from the average American. So the only feedback he's getting as far as the state of the economy is concerned is the stock market, which he has on his news feeds all day. So it's like anybody can sit here and have Fox Business up or CNBC Power Lunch up, whatever it is, and they can just see the numbers. They're good or they're bad. And then the people that are getting access to the White House, these are all either big tech guys that are making out huge in crypto right now, or it's the big Wall Street types or the big business types that have a bunch of money in stocks, have a bunch of assets in stocks. And so so Trump's only feedback now is basically the stock market and the billionaire class. That's his only direct feedback on the American economy. So that's why when he keeps talking about how great it is, the average American is like, no, it's not. Why are you lying? Why are you saying that? Well, he doesn't know. He's not hearing from you. You're being gatekept. Your opinions are being gatekept. Now, as far as the economy is concerned, and then trying to use the stock market as a measuring stick for it, I think there's two things happening. One, it's obviously an inaccurate measuring stick because it doesn't actually reflect on what the average American is experiencing. So if you try to gauge stock market success versus the average American's economic success, you're always going to miss. But right now, maybe worse than ever because the stock market is doing so well, but the average American, not so much. So anytime Trump comes out here and talks about the great economy, the average American is like, well, what the hell is he talking about? I've never struggled more living paycheck to paycheck. So then there's the actual numbers of the stock market. Well, why is the stock market so high? Well, I do think that Trump's trade vision and tariff vision, at least as he's selling it to the billionaire class, they're buying it. I think they're buying it big time, and they might be true believers. They might really be true believers, and maybe that's why they're investing money. Maybe it's something else. But they are investing money and they are believing in it. And so the U.S. stock market is going up. Now, I do think there's a bit of another variable to this inflation in the stock market. I think because the stock market has now never been more easily accessible to anybody with apps like Robinhood, that I do think that's boosting it a little bit too. So I do think because more people are getting into it every day with some of these trading apps, that I think that's giving it a little bit of a synthetic boost. But either way, that's not a good measuring stick for where the U.S. economy is. But I will say, it looks like Trump is having good success so far on his Asia trip, and he's cutting the resource deals, the rare earth deals, the mineral deals right now, and he's getting all of these things done with all of these smaller Asian countries before he goes to China. So you could, if you're looking at this from a hopeful perspective, you would say eventually the economy is going to catch up to the stock market. That's basically what you'd be saying. You're saying that the smart money is betting on America booming. Let's say quarter 1 or 2 next year. Probably better to say 2. Let's say by quarter 2 next year, the U.S. economy is going to start booming. And Trump has a track record of success with that. So you could say people are betting off of the track record. They could be betting off of insider knowledge, or they could be betting, figuring it's low risk right now. And we're going to do all of this and kind of go along with the Trump agenda. And then if it doesn't work, then the market will crash and we'll just pull out all of our money and we won't really be affected by it. So it's kind of a dangerous game that Trump is playing here. But I will say, what it appears to be, as Trump is getting closer to his meeting with Xi Jinping, and he's closing out all of these deals ahead of time, it looks like President Trump is doing something that no other leader has done in the modern age. And that's taking on China directly, strategically, and directly. Now, why do I say that? All of these smaller Asian countries seem to be extremely excited, let's say. They're excited and they're willing to make these deals with Trump. And I think that's because they see Trump as the first person who's come along and said, hey, help me push back against China. You've got this big bully in your part of the world. We've got this big bully now in the international economy, and it's China. And we see what they're doing, and we see what our politicians have done to help them in that endeavor. And so we're changing course now. So instead of America having policy that directly benefits China and hurts the American people, we're going to try to really flip this board, rearrange all the different pieces on the board, and then put China in the sightlines for everybody. So instead of China getting everything they want out of the American politicians, Trump is trying to reorganize the entire international trade board so that China is now the one looking at everybody staring at it. So he's going to all these Asian countries, and they're like, yes, thank God. Oh, we'll do a deal with you right now. Whatever deal you want. You want rare earth minerals? Done. You want tariffs? Done. It's like no hesitation. No struggle session. Just come in. What does Trump want? Done. And now eventually, Trump, once he gets all of these deals, he gets to sit down face-to-face with Xi Jinping. And instead of Xi Jinping saying, well, what leverage do you have? All right, so you got the consumers. Well, they're going to be pissed at you. So the consumers don't necessarily scare China as much as resources. Resources are more leverage than the consumers. The consumers are nice leverage, but they can be turned against any president. We've seen that. So now Trump can sit down with Xi Jinping and say, well, you know, Xi, we'd love to do deals with you, and we see how you've got a corner on a lot of these global markets right now. But you know what? I'm cutting deals with these other countries, and it looks like we're going to be competitive now. Maybe we're going to be competitive in the rare earth minerals. Maybe we're going to be competitive in the refinement of the rare earth minerals. And boy, if that happened, that would really hurt your cornering of the markets, wouldn't it? So why don't you cut a deal with me? Why don't you cut a deal with me, and we won't directly try to kneecap the corners of the global industries and the global markets that you have. Instead, we're just going to try to make a deal that's more beneficial to America, and your stranglehold on trade and the trade deficit, which is still tens of billions of dollars with China, we're basically done with that era. That era is done. And then whatever else comes of it, we can negotiate in the interim. But this is done. And so China's lost its leverage now. And so then the question becomes, does Xi Jinping really want to enter a global trade war with Donald Trump or not? But now he's going to get the full picture. Now he's going to get the full picture. When they sit down and they look at the board and they're going to see who's got what pieces on the board, Trump is going to have himself in a nice position to actually negotiate with some leverage where past presidents have either not had the interest or the leverage to do so. Now, China's biggest security blanket in all of this, quite frankly, is Russia, maybe Iran to a degree, and maybe even states like Venezuela and Brazil. But you see now Trump directly confronting Venezuela. He just bought out the loyalty from Argentina. He just secured a bunch of rare earth deals in Asia. He's trying to secure one in Ukraine. So this is really the big beast. This is the big global trade beast. This is the big monster that China has had on a leash. for most of the 21st century. And now Trump is finally deciding he's going to reel in that leash and he's going to try to get the American economy some slack when it comes to global trade. So huge moonshot that President Trump is taking. But when he sits down with Xi, he's going to actually have the leverage to negotiate. And if there's any measuring stick for the U.S. economy and the stock market, I'd say that the fact that the stock market is hitting record highs, at least right now, tells you that the big money in America believes that Trump is going to win this trade war. That's what they believe. Now, whether they believe that 100% or 51%, that's the gap where you won't find out until next year whether the stock market crashes or not. So if the stock market crashes, and it's mostly going to be the tech sector, because the tech sector is what's getting these record numbers. It's all tech, quantum computing, AI, and then some of the resources, semiconductors and chips, the different resources it takes to make them. If all this stuff crashes, that means that Trump lost the trade deal, and the U.S. economy will take a major hit, big time. But this is Trump's legacy we're talking about here. So if Trump, he doesn't even necessarily have to win these negotiations. He just has to reach a good deal. And then the stock market will stay high. And we can maybe stop with this ridiculous trade deficit that we've had with China for decades, which will benefit the American economy. And so then you start to see, okay, what are we really going to do with tariffs? Because everything up to this point has all been a negotiating tool. Everything Trump has done with tariffs and everything else, it's all been a negotiating tool. It's all been leverage, including what he's doing in Ukraine, including what he's doing in Venezuela, including what he's doing with NATO. In fact, those three things specifically, that's all leverage. Those are not isolated incidents where he's making a decision about a single thing and saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is all leverage. These are all negotiating pieces on the board so that he can cut a trade deal with China. That's what it all is. And now you're getting into the moment now of it's like, okay, we're going to decide. Can President Trump actually make this trade deal with China? And the whole world that's sick of the Chinese bullying the global markets is siding with Trump. It's siding with Trump and rooting for Trump. So this is big, folks. This is big. And maybe, I wouldn't be surprised, but maybe if you start to see a response in the stock market this week, that could be an indicator of where people think things are going. And so far, it's all up. Now, I haven't obviously checked in a couple hours. I've been preparing for the show and now on air, but it was up. By the way, we called that GameStop pump. Did you see that yesterday? Would you guys like me to do more market stuff? Would you guys like me to do more trade stuff, market stuff, stock stuff? Some people like it, some people don't. But we won't ever Cramer you. Never Jim Cramer you. I told you that GameStop was going to pump this morning. Now it's back down to earth. If you played it right, you got a nice little pump this morning. People are already saying, don't talk about stocks. Are you sick of the stock talk? Let's see. Markets are still up today. Pretty much everything is up today. Let's see. Did GameStop? The reason I'm talking about GameStop is Trump pumped it last night. Trump signed the video game wars peace deal, as he said. Yeah, you got a nice pump. It fell back down to earth. It's still up today. But if you got in this morning, if you got in and out this morning, then you did well. If you got in ahead of the Trump pump and then you sold when it pumped this morning, then you did well. You did well today. It's back down to earth now. But see, this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about, folks. When you follow the political news like I do, you can beat some of these insider trading deals because it's all very public. It's almost like Trump is kind of showing you and telling you where to go. So, but that was one I was like, oh, okay, if you can, set it in order for GameStop as soon as the market's open. And then right after the market's open and it gets its pump, you sell. And if you did that this morning, you did pretty well. But I don't know. I don't know if people want that kind of insight from me. Would you rather get sports gambling insight or would you rather get stock market insight? If you want sports gambling insight, maybe producer Dominic is for you. He loves to brag at his spoils of sports bettings over the weekend. Sorry, I'm outing you. But I do much better in the market, I think, than old Dom. I don't know. He may contest. He may decide he wants to contest that. We shall see. By the way, great work. Let's give a shout out to producer Dom. We're going to be hearing from him later today, hopefully with some super chats. I told him to prioritize a news ticker. I'm just now looking at the feed. Big props to producer Dominic. We've got the news ticker. Look at that. Great work. I love it. We're adding value to the show. This show's stock is rising. This show's stock is rising. Buy low. Buy low, ladies and gentlemen. Stock is rising fast. All right? Stock is rising fast. Speaking of rising, what do you guys out there do to get up in the morning? What's your trick? For a lot of people, it's coffee. Everybody knows that. But, sometimes it can be a little obnoxious, quite frankly. Can't it be? Sometimes you don't want to deal with it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about this morning. I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not in the mood to get a cup of coffee going. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the coffee maker. I don't want to deal with scooping the grounds into the coffee maker and then the pot. And then afterwards, I got to clean it all up. I wasn't feeling it today. I needed my coffee this morning, but I wasn't feeling all of it. So you know what I did? I went for Old Reliable. And that's premium instant coffee from our friends at blackoutcoffee.com. By the way, the offer still stands. blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. And you can get 20% off your first order, ladies and gentlemen. 20% off your first order with coupon code Owen at blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. But here's what I'm saying. So it's this morning, and I just made a purchase for some of the pods, some of the coffee pods. So they're not in yet. So I'm there and I'm looking at the coffee maker. I've got my Blackout coffee bag right there. And I'm like, you know what? I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the coffee pot and the grounds and everything today. I need that coffee, though. I need that coffee in the morning. Why not go with premium instant coffee from blackoutcoffee.com? Folks, I'm telling you, I've tried other instant coffees for this exact reason, the convenience. There's no mess. And I'm telling you, nothing tastes better. Most instant coffees are not good. They just don't taste right. They're not full flavored. Very watered down. Sometimes you end up having to do like 2 or 3 of the recommended amount just to get that coffee taste out of it. It's usually miss. And that's why you don't really hear people talking about instant coffee. Well, now you can. Now you can talk about instant coffee. Now you can use one instant coffee pouch and get that full flavored, full coffee result that you so need, dare I say need, in the morning. Premium instant coffee from blackoutcoffee.com, folks. I'm telling you, it hit me. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm staring at my coffee pot. I'm staring at the bag. I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to clean the pot. What am I doing here? I just need to get the instant coffee. Boom. One pouch in a cup. Get the hot water into it. If you got the Cove Pure water filter, hot water just comes right out. Some coffee machines have it too, but just put the scalding water in a cup with one pouch of premium instant coffee from blackoutcoffee.com. And there it is. Your cup is ready to go. No mess. No mess. Takes 60 seconds. Boom. You got a cup of fresh coffee right there. 60 seconds, no mess. First thing in the morning. Can't go wrong. I'm telling you, you've never had better instant coffee. than the premium instant coffee from blackoutcoffee.com. And the box it comes, it's like loaded. You open the top of the box and it's like one of those gag gifts where the things like fly out at you. You open the top of this thing and they have it so packed with 32 pouches. It just like bursts out at you. So it's good for a whole month. You get one box, you're good for the whole month with 32 pouches. You can't go wrong. Premium instant coffee from blackoutcoffee.com. Blackoutcoffee.com/Owen, the official coffee of the Owen Report. 20% off still stands, folks. So if you want to try one of their great flavored coffee pods, they've got all kinds of different flavors there. They got the pumpkin spice flavor right now. They got Christmas themed flavors right now as well. Try some of their single serve pods with all the different flavors. Of course, all the different bags, all the different roasts that they have as well. My favorite premium dark roasts, like the pitch black espresso. It's all there. All of it qualifies. When you go to blackoutcoffee.com/Owen, use coupon code Owen at checkout. You get 20% off your first order. Try a bunch of their stuff. Get the 20% off. Find out the stuff that you like the best. But you will love the coffee from blackoutcoffee.com. We thank our sponsors, blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. All right. By the way, yes, this is the Blackout Coffee mug here. See, I guess it's the official mug of the Owen Report. Just so happens to match the aesthetics of the studio. All right, let's hit some other things here as we are closing in on the end of the first hour. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. There ought to be a study on Debbie Wasserman Schultz because you never want to be that ugly. So it's like, how did she get so ugly? Sorry, you're not supposed to attack people's looks. It's just true. With millions of Americans set to pay 30% more on health insurance as costs, groceries, rent, utilities, and more already skyrocket, Republicans still refuse to negotiate a solution. They just don't care about working Americans. You know, here's the problem with Democrats and why it's just so frustrating because I'm sick of the Democrats. I'm sick of talking about the Democrats. We shouldn't even be talking about them. They have no power. But the truth is that they really are the biggest immediate obstacle in the America First agenda, because we can't even move forward to have like real debates on foreign policy or geopolitics or even some of the current issues ahead of us, because you have Democrats standing in the fray, just complete and utter liars. They just lie about everything. And it's like, oh, here we go again. I'd rather not address any of their lies. But it's like the Republicans always feel this need. It's like, oh, we have to address the Democrat Party lies. Oh, yes, Debbie Wasserman Schultz cares about working class Americans when they all supported shutting down the economy and COVID. They all supported that. They all supported the Affordable Care Act that ended up increasing the cost of health care. It's like every bad economic decision, the Democrats have been right there leading the charge. And Republicans usually follow. And then they say, it's the Trump shutdown. The Democrats could literally vote today and end the shutdown, folks. That is just a fact. I don't care. Shut it all down. Yeah, I'm not the one crying about the government shutdown. It's just watching these Democrats day after day say, oh, the Republican shutdown and the Trump shutdown. You guys could go vote tomorrow and reopen the government. That's just a fact. So don't sit here and talk about working class Americans like you care. It's such a joke, man. Now, have you heard anything about Doge lately? Here's something. First Doge news in months. Doge cuts $160 million in useless contracts. The U.S. was spending millions to beam FM radio and TV into Iraq, Libya, and Chad, because clearly what those regions need most is talk radio. Well, maybe this show. You can stream this show for free in Iraq, Libya, and Chad. I don't know about a translator. Another 19.5 million, was going to diversity, equity, and inclusion training. In just 5 days, Doge scrapped 97 federal contracts with a ceiling of $2.3 billion saving taxpayers $160 million with one giant budgetary delete key. Now, this is great. I'll celebrate this. It's good news. But this is mostly a nothing burger. It's mostly a nothing burger because it's not even 1% of what we were told we were going to get from Doge. Not even 1%. And ever since the fallout with Musk and then Korsenstein or whatever Big Ball's name is and some of the other guys that they all left, Doge is kind of basically flatlined. And there's still some people in there, but it's mostly a flatline operation. The offices are now empty, everything else. So here's what I want to know. Let's just look at this and say, all right, great news. Isolate this issue, follow it to its conclusion. So I want to know, where was 160 million? Oh, we say, oh, well, it's going to FM radio in foreign countries, and it's going to diversity and equity and inclusion and all this stuff in foreign countries. Okay. No, I want to know where it's going. Well, we told you where it's going. It was going to diversity, equity. It was going to FM. No. I want to know where it was going. Do you understand? I want to know where it was going. Don't tell me the agenda. Don't tell me FM radio. Don't tell me diversity, equity. No. I want to know where it was going. So I would like an audit. This is what we need. We need an audit. We need an audit of every single dollar that Doge has eliminated from spending. And we need to go back in time and we need to find out where the money was going. Sorry, FM radio in Iraq, Libya, and Chad, I ain't buying it. I ain't buying that's where the money is going. Now, some money might end up producing FM radio in these countries, and some money might end up going to diversity, equity, and inclusion training. These are policy agenda items. I want to know where the money was going. Do you understand that? I don't want to hear what the money was earmarked for or where it was supposed to be sent and for what. No, I want to know exactly where every damn penny was transferred to and its final destination. No, you know what? I scratch that. I don't want to know that. The American people need to know that. They need to know that. They deserve to know that. And this is why this is such a big issue for me. And it was such a massive failure of the administration to let Doge go by the wayside. We're talking about some of the biggest crimes in America's political history. We're talking about some of the biggest money laundering operations. It's the biggest theft in the history of the world. Where did all the money go? Hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars gone. And then they just go down and they say, well, it was earmarked for FM radio. It was earmarked for television. It was earmarked for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was earmarked for an experiment with gay shrimp. It was earmarked for this. It was earmarked. No. I don't want to hear what it was earmarked for. I want an audit to see where every damn penny went. I want to see every damn bank account that saw a dime. I want to see every individual's account that saw a nickel. I want to see every single penny and where it ended up. And then you can tell me. It was for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then you can tell me it was for FM radio. But somehow I get the feeling that $160 million was not all for FM radio. You know what I mean? Somehow I feel like $150 million on FM radio was probably going somewhere else. Probably not all for FM radio. And I would argue the American people deserve to know. Yeah. In fact, it should be considered standard practice. Oh, but see, now you know why Elon Musk got pushed out of town in such a direct, confrontational manner, because Musk wanted to know too. And wouldn't that be exposing one of the biggest financial crimes in the history of this planet, of where all our money went? Can't have that. Oh, I'm sure there was plenty of interest in Washington, D.C. to make sure that no one found out where that money was going. Because do you know? Do you know? I mean, they've officially claimed, I believe they've officially claimed $20 billion in savings. Now, some might argue it's more, some might argue it's less, but I think the official claim, not just things that they found and not just things that they exposed, I mean, the actual bottom line, I believe, is about 20 to 30 billion. Now, we were told it could be up to $1 trillion, maybe $2 trillion, but they got Musk out of town. No. This is one of the biggest money laundering operations in the history of the world. It's probably the biggest financial theft, and its victims are the American people. And Musk and his team was honing in on it. And they wanted to get the answers that we're asking today. And that's why he was so viciously booted out of Washington, D.C. You don't think there's interest in D.C. in making sure none of this information gets out? You don't think there's people panicking in D.C. and around the world to make sure there's not an audit of all this money, these trillions of dollars in foreign aid and special interests that the U.S. taxpayer has been spending all around the planet to the tunes of hundreds of billions of dollars? Oh, you don't think there's some interest in D.C. to make sure you don't find out where that money is going? Mm-hmm. And then I can't even imagine what goes on with Musk behind the scenes now. I can't even imagine. You could argue the world needs Elon Musk. Probably fair to say. But you could probably argue that there's people in D.C. that might even dare say they need Elon Musk dead. That's the high stakes we're talking about. Whoever it is that's laundering all this money, whoever it is that's stealing all of this money, belongs in prison probably for the rest of their lives. And they know that. But they know the outrage of the American people will be beyond just talking about, sending you to prison. There'll be talks of treason and other such things. So, of course, they had to get Musk out of there. Of course, they had to shut down Doge. And, of course, all the energy that we used to hear and see for forensic audits of every single dime is gone. It's gone. It doesn't even exist anymore. What a shame. That's the story in D.C. That's the story. The American people get robbed, and then anybody that dares try to figure out who's robbing the money and where it's going, you are shut down, silenced, kicked out of town, and then attacked so that the money laundering keeps on going.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
Extra dimensional and multi-universal. Here's your host, Owen Schroyer.
All right, we're in hour number 2 of the Owen Report for today. Why do I talk so much? Barely even cover the news. Just yapping. I need to focus. I need to cover some news here. Should we just start pile driving? Let's just start pile driving. Big win in midterm vote for Argentina's President Milei boosts markets and vindicates Trump. Well, it's pretty clear now. Our intuition, our suspicions from last week proving to be true, that Trump basically was buying loyalty from Milei and Argentina. But he also helped boost Milei because the deal was the new foreign aid package relied on Milei staying in power. So basically the Argentinian people, I'm sure it reached the news wires. America agrees for a $40 billion aid package only if Milei stays in power and Milei's party stays in power. And then what do you know? After that news hits, Milei's party has more political power than they ever have in Argentina. Now, look, I don't like any of the foreign aid. I'm a bit of a hawk on it, a bit of a hawk. One of the biggest hawks on it. I don't want any foreign aid. Now, strategically, remove my own opinions, issues from the matter. Strategically, I understand why Trump did it. I understand why Trump bought Argentine loyalty. I get it. It's a nice leverage point for whatever else he wants to do as far as rare earth minerals are concerned, as far as dealing with Venezuela is concerned, and just having support internationally as well. So I don't like it, but I understand why he did it. And ultimately, I think it'll be better. It'll be better for Argentina, and maybe it'll be better for us. But that's why Trump did it. So I'm a total hawk. I don't like any foreign aid, but I get why Trump did it. He bought the loyalty of Milei and Argentina, and he kept Milei and its party in power, made it more powerful than ever, which is probably a good thing that Argentina doesn't go back to its socialist ways. But nonetheless, it's still pay for play. That's what it is. It's still pay for play. And I'm just not a fan. Oh, shall we get into the mayor's race in New York City? It's heating up. Inside the Mamdani machine. Soros cash, socialists and radical imams engineered Zoran Mamdani's path to power. It's so funny. First of all, it's no secret. He's I guess he's Muslim. I don't know. It's like the same thing. Like there's Jewish people, but do they actually practice the stipulations of the faith? It's like a whole new, that's like a whole nother wing of that whole conversation. But it's like the same thing. Is Mamdani really Muslim? His wife doesn't wear a burqa. Is he a practicing Muslim? I don't know. But my point is that it's always hey, just label him Muslim. And that's, supposed to be the negative thing. It's hey, he's Muslim. It's oh, we have no tolerance. We hate Muslims. But it's just oh, then there's a Randy Fine who's a loves death, says he wants to turn the entire Gaza Strip into glass, just bomb them all. But, if you point out he's Jewish, it's oh, my gosh. And then they lied about this letter that was sent to Randy Fine from Qatar. It's actually the Qatari leaders were hey, I think we could have better relations if you were just treat us a little better and we could treat you better and, maybe just lighten up some of your rhetoric as far as you want everybody in Gaza dead. It'd be nice if you could do that. And they come out and they say, look at the hate. Look at the hate that Randy Fine has to endure. Well, he said he wants everybody in Gaza dead. So, but that New York Jews also supported Mamdani. Yeah. In case you didn't know that. Yeah. He had multiple meetings with New York Jews and Hasidic Jews and Orthodox Jews that support his campaign. But don't put that in there. Regardless, I really don't care about that. I think it's funny that as we sit here, we watch the exact same narrative. it gets to this point where you realize that the Republicans don't want to do anything, because if they actually do something, then they wouldn't have anything to do. Does that make sense? If the Republicans actually targeted George Soros and got his money out of politics, if the Republicans actually targeted all of these left-wing groups that are out protesting and rioting all the time, then what will Republicans do? It's almost like they need Soros in the political world so that they can constantly point the finger over there and keep him as the bad guy. It's like, if you actually get rid of the bad guy, then maybe you become the bad guy. You could talk about Soros money. Oh, they all want to do something about Soros money. They all talk about Soros money. And they all talk about the left-wing protests and riots and everything else. And it's like, hey, you know how you can get rid of that, right? Pam Bondi's supposed to be on it. Kash Patel, we're targeting these groups. We have the names. We just saw it twice this month at a cabinet meeting. They say they're going after the money. And here it is again. Oh, Soros money again, Mamdani. So you almost reach the realization. Republicans don't want to do anything about it, folks. They love the left-wing protests. They love the left-wing riots. And they love George Soros because it's the perfect boogeyman for them. And as long as these boogeymans exist for the Republicans to point the finger at and say, bad guy over there, then that's all they have to do. Bad guy over there, give us more money. Bad guy over there, vote for us. So that's why they never do anything. If the Republicans actually did something, then they have nothing to do. If the Republicans actually got rid of the bad guys, then they would be the bad guys. This is why nothing gets done. This is why Republicans in power complain all the time about all the issues that we all see, and they never do anything about it because they need it. They need George Soros in American politics so that he can be the bad guy. They need the left-wing riots and protesters so they can use them to campaign on. And they never do anything because they need their boogeyman. Here's another one. So we were right about Trump and the stock market as his measuring stick, and we were right about Mamdani. What did we say yesterday? Not yesterday. Was it Friday? It was Friday. We said it all week. Mamdani is the future of the Democrat Party. Now Elon Musk is saying the same thing. Isn't that weird? Last week we said Trump views the economy measuring stick as the stock market. Now Trump comes out and says, look at the stock market. Last week we said Mamdani is the future of the Democrat Party. Now Elon Musk comes out. Mamdani is the future of the Democrat Party. It's almost like you're listening to the cutting edge of political analysis right here. It's almost like that's what's happening. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. They're still complaining. Oh, you got all these socialists. Again, it's like, look at, here's Fox News. They're complaining about all the different socialists that are winning elections now.
See about that. Free lawyers for illegal immigrants, and there's more where that came from. But he's not the only one. Across the country, there are more. Two more examples. In Minneapolis, Omar Fateh is running. He wants to fund non-police programs, keep homeless encampments, and stabilize rent. You hear that a lot from the socialists, and you can understand why. Rents are high. This one's interesting. In Seattle, Katie Wilson is running for Seattle mayor. She wants a bond for affordable housing. She wants to install city-owned solar panels and fund alternative crisis responses. She lives in a 600-square-foot apartment that she rents with her husband, and they have a small child there. She's running against another Democrat who is like, wait, I'm diverse. I've made incredible gains through my own hard work. But she is in the lead. Josh Krasher is the editor-in-chief of Jewish Insider, one of our political analysts. See about that. Free lawyers for illegal immigrants, and there's more where that came from. But he's not the only one.
Oh, that's funny. By the way, Dana Perino is total proof that Fox News makeup team can make anybody hot. Now, Dana Perino might be a good-looking woman on her own, but she's like 60-something, or like you should see her without makeup. So it's amazing what they can do, those makeup artists. We love you, Dana. You're great. Great looking gal. But man, what those Fox makeup crews can do is it's Should almost be illegal. You want to talk about a catfish. Okay. So again, Republicans are missing the ball. They're missing the ball again, and they have no idea what any of this represents. Why are socialist candidates winning elections? Why? They continue to want to say, oh, it's because of the diversity. Oh, it's because of the third world and all this other stuff. And yeah, you know what? There's some impact, but they're missing the point. And it's the biggest lie that they keep telling themselves, that the economy is great. You keep lying to yourselves about the economy. And then when you see the results of these elections that are based off of the bad economy, you just scratch your head. You have no idea what's going on. Why do young people vote for socialists? You will use every excuse in the book before you land on the biggest reason. College indoctrination. The liberalism agenda, propaganda. You'll use every excuse in the book before you actually admit the real reason why socialists are winning elections. It's because the economy is not good. And specifically for young people that now feel hopeless in the economy. Now, let's just be clear. This is no endorsement of socialism right here. This is no endorsement of socialism. This is no endorsement of any of these candidates. I've never voted for a Democrat in my life. I'll never support, I don't know. I guess I can't say never. I don't see myself supporting a socialist or a Democrat anytime in my life. Or an outright communist. Definitely don't see that. But they're all missing the point. They all want to make this based off of identity politics, and they all want to throw in all these different political boogeymen and straw men into the conversation, all to avoid the one reason, which is the economy. That's what it is. So you can try to wrap your head on all the different reasons socialists are coming to power, and you can blame Soros, and you can blame the college university professors and the liberal agenda and propaganda. You can blame all of it. And it's all got its reasons to be blamed, but that's not it. It's the economy, stupid. That's all it is. It's the economy. The economy is not good. And specifically for young Americans, the economy is really bad. So bleak. So bleak that they feel totally hopeless except to vote for a communist or a socialist. That's it. It's not that difficult. And all those other boogeymen you love to talk all day about, yeah, they're involved. They're definitely part of the equation, but that's not the big equation. You fix the economy, specifically for young people. You make young people feel like they can afford a home again. You make young people feel like they don't have to live a life as a debt slave again. They're not going to vote for socialists. They'll never vote for a socialist. The only reason why this is happening is because the economy is bad. That's it. And you can try to weave up as many excuses as you want, and you can try to cope with this as much as you want. That's what it is. It's the economy, stupid. And the economy is not good. And for young people, it feels completely hopeless. And so they're voting for socialists. But Republicans are so scared to be honest about that, because then they might actually have to take some responsibility and some action as to why the economy is not good. And they just don't seem too interested in that. You know? They'd rather just tell you how great it is and then lose elections. That's how they roll. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, here's Trump. Well, I don't even know if I want to play that. Trump basically confirming that he basically is why Millet's party won the elections, and it's probably true. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So this was some of the stuff from over the weekend at the Mamdani rally. AOC. It really is. It's really cute, don't you think? How many accents do you pick up in this 30-second clip from AOC? She's bouncing. She's getting bouncy, which might benefit her more if her clothes were a little tighter fitting, but I digress. So here's AOC. I'm counting at least 3 different accents. She's trying to be the next Kamala. How many accents do you count on AOC at the Mamdani rally this weekend?
Jews escaping Holocaust, Black American.
Oh my gosh. I forgot how ridiculous this clip is. All right. First, try to count the accents, and then I'll get into how ridiculous what she actually says is. Here we go.
Jews escaping Holocaust.
Right, so this is her, how she talks.
Slavery and Jim Crow. Latinos.
There's accent number 2.
Seeking a better life. Native people standing for themselves. Asian Americans coming
There's accent
together
number 3.
in Queens, in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, in Manhattan, in Staten Island, in this country.
All right, I count 3 accents. She's bouncing up and down. Did you drink some blackout coffee before this, AOC? I can't tell what's going on, too. She seems to put on and put off weight very rapidly. She can blow up and go into that torta type of a phase, or she can put it off and get right back into the mannequin type. Actually, I can relate to that. Where's her husband in all of this, by the way? Why haven't you impregnated your wife? Oh, yeah. We know why. We know why. We know all too well. Come on, you didn't get excited when she was bouncing up and down like that? That didn't do it for you? Okay. Aside from the fun of it, I want you to, let's actually respond to what she's saying here. Let's actually respond to what she is saying here, because this is why it's just like, it's so old hat now to own the libs and the left. But you know what? Every once in a while, you got to point it out. Everything that she says here is pure projection. Everything she says here is pure projection. I think I think I can bullet point out where everything she says here is pure projection. Let's see. Here we go.
Jews escaping Holocaust.
All right. Jews escaping the Holocaust. Who was holocausting the Jews? Who was that? Was that the Socialist Party? Oh, that's right. That was the socialists. You're a socialist. So that's you. So the socialists did the Holocaust, and now you're out here campaigning against the Holocaust, but you're a socialist. Okay?
Black Americans fleeing slavery and Jim Crow.
Black Americans fleeing slavery and Jim Crow. Okay, the Confederates, Democrats or Republicans? Democrats. Who wrote the Jim Crow laws, Republicans or Democrats? Democrats. She's a Democrat.
Latinos seeking a better life.
Latinos seeking a better life. Seeking a better life from what? Socialism. Again, it's the socialists. Again, it's the left wing that's the problem here. And they want to come to America. Why? A country founded by white people? Oh my gosh. A majority white country, at least for now. So you're telling me that the Latinos want to escape their socialist countries and come into a capitalist country run by white people? Is that what you're saying?
Native people standing for themselves. Asian American.
Native people standing for themselves? Standing for themselves? You mean not on welfare? Wait, is AOC against the welfare state now? Like, dare I say, pick yourself up by your bootstraps? Oh. Now AOC is saying, pick yourself up by your bootstraps? Wow.
Coming together
Oh, we're all coming together now. Okay. We're all coming together now. That's some high energy right there. Do you think that's organic? Do you think that's organic from AOC? What do you think her secret is, guys? Do you think she's doing the fasting? But she gets like, she flirts with the abuela body type. She flirts with the torta body type to such a degree that people think she's pregnant. And then the next time she appears, it's all gone. Do you think it's, is she fasting? Is it water weight? We know we're not burning calories in the bedroom with the husband. We know that's not happening. So I don't know. People are wondering. That was no. Kathy Hochul. You know what, Kathy? I'm going to hear you out on this, but I'm going to raise you. Let's hear what Kathy had to say this weekend.
What about the ICE agents flooding our streets as we speak?
I love that. I love that. What about the ICE agents flooding our streets as we speak? Okay. Who are the ICE agents you're referring to? Okay. You're talking about Americans. That's what you're saying. American citizens of this country, Americans, law enforcement officers even. And I believe with ICE, the demographics, actually, it's mostly Latino Americans, Hispanic Americans, actually. It's not white people that make up the majority of ICE. It's actually brown people. So exactly what are you saying? Oh, we're watching American citizens. We're watching American law enforcement officials flood our streets. Okay, you got a problem with that. All right, maybe as a principle, you got an issue with that. What about the non-citizens that flooded our streets? Anything on that? What about specifically in New York, where there's probably, 2 million illegal aliens, maybe more? And what do? They take up the budget. They take up housing units, apartments, hotels, low-income housing, the streets. Oh, I see. So Kathy Hochul has no problem with criminal illegal aliens flooding the streets of New York by the millions. But then she has the problem when American law enforcement agents are out there doing their job. That's when she decides to raise her voice. Gotcha. Thank you.
Canal Street, Queens, the Bronx, they're everywhere, and they're terrorizing
Are you talking about the illegal aliens? Because that's what it sounds like you're talking about.
innocent people.
No, so you are talking about the illegal aliens. Millions who poured in, terrorizing innocent people. That's the illegal aliens. You're not still talking about ICE agents. Surely you're not.
And we have had enough. Now Donald
We have
Trump
we have had enough. That is true. That's true.
says, oh, we're going after the worst of the worst, the baddest of the bad. They're splitting up families. And let me tell you this actually happened. They took away mothers of babies who were nursing them and separated them.
I guarantee you that didn't happen.
This is how cruel they are.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm sure an ICE agent ripped a newborn baby off the breast of her mother. Yeah. I'm sure that happened, Kathy. And if it did happen, you guys would obviously not be broadcasting it all over the airwaves for days after it happened. Obviously, you wouldn't do that. So yes, I'm sure that happened, and I'm sure you guys are making sure that video evidence wouldn't go anywhere. Just made up crap. But you know what? I'm willing to play ball with Kathy Hochul and the Democrats. I am. I'm willing to play this game of high stakes poker. And if the Democrats want to abolish ICE, okay, so that's your ante. That's your first bet, is to abolish ICE. All right. Okay. I call your bet to abolish ICE, and I raise you the rest of the federal government. Ooh, how about that? Let's see you call that, bitch. Let's see you call that bet, formaldehyde face. What is it with Kathy Hochul looking like she has a rubber Halloween mask on 24/7? Seriously. Her and Debbie Wasserman Schultz need to be studied so that people can know how to not be that ugly. I'm not attacking their looks. I'm trying to do us a favor here. I'm actually trying to do human civilization a great service here. We need to study. What is it about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Kathy Hochul that makes them look like death warmed over? I mean, at least with Nancy Pelosi, you understand. She's like 100 years old. At least with Pelosi, she had a heyday. So, okay, Pelosi, everything she's done and, her old age. All right, we understand why she looks like, a walking corpse. But what is it with Hochul and Wasserman Schultz? You guys aren't that old. And the levels of absolute disgust that your faces now exude, it needs to be studied. Humanity needs to know what happened that made you guys look like you're central casting for a Halloween movie villain, so that we can, as Americans, make sure that people don't do that. Whatever it is you guys did to get your faces that look like that, we need to know what it is so that we can know to never do it again and maybe outlaw it. Because that is a nasty number, what you guys got going on there. I mean, truly, it's unbelievable. Is there nobody out there that can make you look like Dana Perino? Does it just not exist? Somebody can do it. All right, let's see if there's anything else I want to go here before we go to the news. Let's see what's Tim Walz talking about here?
Democrats are ready to go. I know they're ready to come back and do this. They're ready to come back and protect things that had passed the legislature. They are not willing to come back and let an authoritarian president do whatever he wants.
I'm sorry. These people are just so stupid. Do you know what hyperbole is, Tim? Do you know what a hyperbolic statement might be? We won't allow this authoritarian to do whatever he wants. Well, golly gee, Tim. I guess that means that he's not an authoritarian. Yeah. Very nice. Very good. Well done. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, let's go. I've been trying to avoid it, but I can't avoid it much longer. Let's get into the controversial geopolitical section of today's show. Let's just do it. I'm being scolded. My own mother now is telling me not to be nice and not to attack them for their looks. I told you, I'm not attacking them. This is a neutral observation. And I'm trying to get down to the bottom of what would cause somebody to look like such a hideous monster so that we can avoid it. This is a service I'm trying to do here. Why am I so misjudged? I've got to be the most misjudged person out there. Here I am trying to have a positive outcome. Here I am looking for solutions to a problem, and it's totally misinterpreted as an attack. Just because I point out that Kathy Hochul looks like formaldehyde face doesn't mean I'm attacking or being negative. I'm simply saying what caused that so we can avoid it. That's all. It's actually a very positive thing that I'm doing here. Or maybe I'm just trying to avoid getting into the controversial stuff. Let's just dive right in. So, okay, woke right. Everybody, it's woke right. It's woke right. And I always have to be the one to explain these things because words have meaning. So let's start with woke. Well, what is woke? What are the core tenets of woke? As we've described in the past, core tenets of woke would be identity politics. core tenets of woke would be when you lose a debate, going to the character attacks, the character assassinations. And so you have to, when you talk about woke right, you have to first lay out the core tenets of what woke means, whether it's left or right. So again, core tenets, identity politics, attacking somebody you lose a debate with. Well, what is another cornerstone of woke? What is another cornerstone? Now, let's apply this to the woke left so that the understanding here will be a little more present. The woke always has to defend death. The woke always has to defend death, whether that's death at an abortion clinic, whether that's death when a criminal illegal alien comes into this country and murders somebody, whether that's death when somebody gets let out of jail because they want a certain demographic in the prison system, and then they end up defending death. Abortion, well, you killed a baby. No, it's healthcare. You're defending death. Illegal alien comes in, kills a woman. No, they were just escaping a bad country. It was just a culture issue. You're defending death. Man commits a violent crime, gets released, doesn't go to jail. Say, well, he just went out and killed somebody. Yeah, but there's too many black men in the prison system, and it's racist. So we couldn't send him. We had to push back against the racist judicial system. You're defending death. So now that we have that laid out, here's your woke right. This is Dave Rubin, who I believe he and his husband have adopted 2 children. Right. Very conservative. Putting aside the communism and jihadism, so they're losing on these debates. That's what that means. Okay, we can't beat communists and we can't beat jihadis now. That's how sad the state of the woke right is. It should also be totally disqualifying that Mamdani says he would abide by international law. And if you know what he's talking about, you already know where this is going. No American is bound by international law. As a matter of fact, we are actually protected against it as Americans, yet we can't be protected against all the foreign aid. That is the whole point of being a sovereign nation, which we aren't. So Dave Rubin says, please vote for the guy who killed all the old people during COVID. And there it is. Dave Rubin, you are officially woke right. Congratulations. You were probably already ingratiated into the woke community when you married your husband, and then you got a gold ticket when you adopted children. But now you're defending death. So now you are an official card-carrying member of the woke community. Congratulations. You are now defending death. And all the people on the right supporting Cuomo, you are the woke right. You are definitively the woke right. And you are now exhibiting one of the core tenets of being woke, which is you ultimately have to defend death. And that's what they have to do. And I actually thank Dave Rubin. For being so transparent on this issue and laying it out so clearly and eloquently. He's a good communicator. And he's done very well here. He's communicated the whole thing very well here. And so I thank Dave Rubin for that. Vote for the guy who killed all the old people during COVID. Congratulations, woke right. You guys have your candidate in the New York City mayor's race, and now you're defending all the death because you are the woke right. Now, of course, we know the issue that this is really falling on, but we just want to give credit where credit is due. That is woke. Did you see this craziness in the Daily Mail this weekend? Welcome to Hotel Hamas. 150 dangerous terrorists released by Israel under Gaza peace deal are staying at a 5-star luxury resort alongside unsuspecting Western tourists. That's pretty shocking. Now, this is in Cairo, and these are what they're saying are highly dangerous extremists. All right? Now, look. Everybody just take a deep breath. Remove your own emotions and politics, okay? Just take a deep breath and take a walk with me here, all right? Just take a deep breath and take a walk with me here. How do I close this crap? Yeah, I don't want to see a man's ass on my freaking webpage. God. Just like unavoidable crap, man. I'm sorry. Crashing out over these ads. Can you close the ad for the love of God? All right. All right. As I'm crashing out, have you removed your emotion, everything? All right. So let me ask you a question. 150 Hamas terrorists, Hamas extremists, dangerous with the unsuspecting community around them. And they're all staying in this hotel in Cairo. Let's say they stay there and then they leave and nothing happens. Nobody gets hurt. They don't attack anybody. They don't even touch a woman. They just go there, enjoy their time now that they're done fighting. And they just go to a luxury resort and they leave and they don't leave any marks anywhere. Does that impact anything as far as the perspective here is concerned? I think that's a fair question. Now, see, you're not even allowed to do commentary like this, or they say you're pro-Hamas. I'm not pro-Hamas. I'm anti the whole damn thing. I'm simply here opening minds. We have a lot of closed-minded people here. And I'm just saying, if these dangerous terrorists can go spend time at a hotel and not do anything illegal or dangerous or violent, does that change the perspective at all? Serious question. Because the insinuation here in the Western media is that these Hamas terrorists are at this hotel. They could rape anybody at any moment. They could rape any woman, kidnap any child, kidnap any woman, kill any man, blow the place up. That's the insinuation. You know, that's who they are. They're Hamas. They're crazed, violent, sociopathic, psychopathic, rapists, murderers, and kidnappers. They just can't help themselves. And now they're at this luxury resort in Cairo, and surely somebody's going to get killed. Somebody's going to get raped. Somebody's going to get kidnapped, right? What if it doesn't happen? I'm just asking you, does that change your mindset on the whole thing? Does it? If the insinuation is that these people are so psychotic and crazed that they can't be in civilized society, certainly not at a five-star resort hotel in Cairo. Certainly somebody's getting raped, somebody's getting killed, somebody's getting kidnapped. But if it goes through and then that doesn't happen, well, what does that say? Does that change your mind on anything? Does that change your perspective on anything? Is that not a social experiment that would either prove somebody right or wrong on the issue? Just trying to figure it out. And they're saying they're bombers, kidnappers, and rapists. They're literally saying these are bombers and kidnappers and rapists and killers at this hotel in Cairo. And yet nobody even knew that they were there. Nobody felt threatened as they were chilling by the pool. No women have filed any complaints. So just asking if that changes anything. Seems that that would kind of be impossible, right? That Hamas terrorists could be at a five-star resort in Cairo without raping, killing, or kidnapping. It seems like that couldn't even be. These people can't be in civilized society. It's what we're told. I don't know. I don't know if I will. Do I really want to go farther on this? Here, let's listen to a couple things. Here's Marco Rubio. Let's listen to Marco Rubio here quickly.
The strike against the Palestinian Jihad individuals? Yes. Yeah, look, Israel didn't surrender its right to self-defense.
Yeah, let me give a little context here. So Israel has killed, they think now, up to 500 people since the ceasefire. Israel continues to bomb and kill. And what they do is they say, oh, we were attacked first. Now, the one major case where they said a Hamas terrorist popped out of a hole in the ground and shot him with an RPG has pretty much been completely disproven. FYI. It's pretty much been completely debunked and disproven, and it does look like it was Israeli settlers who went in there and blew up a bomb, and then said it was Hamas. And there were IDF soldiers there out of uniform, because most people have to serve in the IDF if you're in Israel. So it's like anybody's IDF. But you had IDF that were there either spectating new land or part of the excavation to start a new build for the new Israeli settlers. And they blew up a bomb. They blew up a bomb, and it killed some IDF soldiers not in uniform. So, of course, the narrative in the Western media was they wanted you to think that IDF soldiers were just there walking around, patrolling, protecting the area, and some psychotic Hamas, radical jihad popped out of a hole that they were hiding in for weeks to do this and said, Allahu Akbar, and fired a bomb and killed them. So it turns out the whole thing was a lie. It was some Israelis that were excavating the land, prospecting the land, blew up a bomb and killed some people, including out of uniform IDF soldiers. That's what happened. So they lied. And they said they were attacked by Hamas. So now this process has repeated multiple times. And Israel says, oh, we're acting in self-defense against Hamas. A total lie. It's not Hamas, folks. You just saw Hamas is at their luxury resorts. Hamas is literally on vacation right now. So they just made it up. So the truth is, Israel has violated the ceasefire multiple times. And so Rubio is now forced to address this. Israel has violated the ceasefire multiple times. And they just say, oh, it's self-defense. It's just self-defense. So we didn't violate anything. And now Rubio is up there. He knows he's lying. And now Rubio is up there being forced to lie to run cover for what Israel is doing. And I think when you look at Trump's face in this video, you can see how frustrated he is. Now, he has to play ball from the Israel side. He has to. He has to play ball from the Israel is our greatest ally aspect of this. I don't expect that to change. That's how it's going to be. But at the same time, I think you can sense it. I think you can see it, that Trump is getting very, very frustrated and losing patience, having to cover for all of the lies coming out of Israel from the Netanyahu regime. And I think Trump is sick and damn tired of all the death that he's trying to stop, that Israel seems to be now in some sort of a bloodlust addiction for whatever reason, whether it's an agenda to take all the land or they're still seething from October 7th and they just want more blood. I don't know. But you can see that I think Trump's body language in this clip, as Rubio is lying about what's happening, I think Trump's body language tells you he's getting very, very frustrated at how this is going or how it's not going.
You're talking about the strike against the Palestinian Jihad individuals? Yes. Yeah, look, Israel didn't surrender its right to self-defense. Obviously, the ceasefire is based on...
Now, again, notice what he does here at the beginning. Who? He just says, oh, you mean against the radical jihadi individual? Folks, who? Who is it? It's literally just made up. It's a total straw man. Israel got caught killing people and violating the ceasefire. And this is why I always go with the psychology element. It's like there's some sort of weird paranoid schizophrenia happening here. There's some sort of trauma-based mind control happening here, which, I mean, you could probably understand. If you're in a region that was just torn apart by a violent war and a lot of people have died, you're probably on high alert. Something blows up over here and it's oh, bomb it, kill, just go crazy. And that's probably how they responded. Netanyahu said they dropped 150 tons of bombs. That's paranoid schizophrenia. Like, you guys blew up a bomb and then you went into a paranoid schizophrenia fit of rage and you killed a bunch of people. That's what happened. So Rubio just says, oh, yeah, you mean the radical jihadi individual? Who? Who was it? Folks, if there was a person and they could tie them to Hamas, you would know their name. You would have their picture. They would have everything for you. They would have every piece of evidence to say, see, this was a Hamas terrorist. And then they would use that as fuel to continue the war. But they're not doing that because it's all a lie. So they just go with the generic straw man. Oh, Israel attacked a radical jihadist. What an absolute ridiculous lie.
The strike against the Palestinian Jihad individual?
Yes.
Yeah, look, Israel didn't surrender its right to self-defense. Obviously, the ceasefire is based on obligations on both sides. By the way, we'd also like to see Hamas speed up the return of hostage bodies. We still have 13 hostages, 2 Americans included. But we don't view that as a violation of the ceasefire. They have a right. There's an imminent threat to Israel, and all the mediators agree with that.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. I'm sure that's exactly how it's all going. Not good. Now listen to this. This is from a Jewish German media reporter. I don't know if it'd probably be better for me to provide context after this clip, but here he is talking about what's going on with the IDF and how they just got a massive pay raise.
With the current genocide in Gaza, they have changed the rules and decided that all the reservists, regardless of what they do in the reserve life, would receive 29,000 shekels per month. This is equivalent to about $9,000, more or less, per month, which is more than twice the average wage in Israel and more than 5 times the minimum wage in Israel. So it's a lot of money. And for tens of thousands of Israelis who lost their jobs, who lost their source of income and employment, and because they've served so long as reservists, and also because the Israeli economy is tanking, something that we will discuss more in our next episodes, then they see reserve duty and this very high salary as a way out. And they receive those tokens, they reserve tokens as payment for serving in the military. But it's not only that the amount of money has been increased, but also the way that it is being paid is now different. Because normally the Ministry of Defense would just transfer the money directly to reservists, but now the officers themselves get those tokens to distribute as they see fit. Now, a lot of the units, I would say the vast majority of the units in the Israeli military are lacking key personnel. The units are not able to function. You cannot have like an armored division if you don't have drivers. The tanks won't go anywhere. So officers are advertising on WhatsApp and writing, we need drivers. And even if you're not from our unit, come and do some reserve duty in our unit as a tank driver, and we will pay you with those reserve duty tokens. And some jobs are so difficult and rare that the officers are saying, you know what, come and work for us for 4 days, but we will pay you 6 days, as if you've worked for 6 days. And this way, you really see how Israel is becoming a mercenary army. Basically, you have this army of soldiers who are not associated with particular units and wandering from one unit to the next as a gig economy military.
All right, now I'm gonna let his words speak for themselves. Let me provide the context, because this is where the Americans have no idea what's really going on. And I think it would be best to introduce this subject like this. The Israeli media is way more objective or neutral. I don't know how you want to say it. But if you actually go follow Israeli media on all these developments, let's just say it like that, on the war developments and some economic developments and other such things, if you follow Israeli media, you will get a much more diverse spectrum of news coverage than you will in America, and it's not even close. It's not even close. The American media is probably like 80% pro-Israel. The rest of the grassroots anti-Israel stuff is, that's more kind of grassroots, some organic, some inorganic, protest stuff. But that's like its own little wing. When it comes to actual news and media, it's like 80% positive for Israel. And even the 20% that's anti-Israel on the left, they're not even really giving you the full picture. They're just kind of anti-Israel, maybe even anti-Semitic to a certain extent, but they're still not even telling you the real story. So let me explain what's really going on here. And this is why they have to cover up what's really going on in Israel, because if the American people understood what was really going on, you might not support the war as much. You might not support the foreign aid as much, or you might realize that these things are not as popular in Israel as they would have you believe when you live in America. So I guess I would put it like this to simply state it. You as an American citizen are more propagandized on Israel than an Israeli citizen is. You will get a much more diverse spectrum of news coverage in Israel on these issues than you will in America. You really don't even get a clue when you're in America. It's so watered down. It's so propagandized. Okay, so let's get to what he just said. The key elements that you as an American are not supposed to understand about what's been going on in Israel. One, there has been a mass exodus of the country, specifically in the brightest minds and the people that actually have skills and abilities where they can move to another country and immediately get work. Doctors, engineers, these types of professionals. They've left by the tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands at this point. They started fleeing immediately after October 7th. There is a massive exodus in Israel of some of their most skilled professionals and their families gone. And everybody knows Israelis, the majority of them have dual citizenship. They're all gone. They left. They're not telling you this. This has resulted in a major hit to the Israeli economy. And you combine that when they were in the war with Iran and some of the other conflict that's reached the actual land of Israel, businesses have been closed, businesses have been shut, some have been shut down permanently. So the Israeli economy is not doing good. But then you hear him talking about how these new payments for the IDF soldiers, and there's a bunch of money out there. The U.S. taxpayer is subsidizing the Israeli economy, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's going on. You are subsidizing the wages for IDF soldiers. Now, you've been doing that for your entire life. But when Trump got into office and signed that extra $30 billion in aid that went out immediately for Israel, you just subsidized the entire Israeli economy. The Israeli economy was hurting. It was hurting badly. And Trump subsidized it. He basically gave him a flush of $30 billion. And then, of course, restocked their defense weapons, their defense capabilities that were almost out. The American taxpayer is subsidizing the entire nation of Israel. And it's still not enough, by the way. You notice that? It's still not enough. They still want more. They still demand more. And it's not even, when I say they, that's really not even the Israelis. That's the people like Levin, the water carriers, the foreign agents, the Israeli agents like Mark Levin and others. They are the ones that are demanding it's never enough. You don't really get that from Israel, quite frankly. You get it from Netanyahu. But other than that, can you point to a single Israeli that's here begging you for more? No, it's the Levins, it's the Shapiros, it's the Loomers. You know all the candidates here. You know all the players in the game by now, if you're following. The U.S. taxpayer is subsidizing the entire country. And now they're basically forcing who's ever left into the IDF to fight in the war. Because that's where, as he explains, the gig economy is at. It's not a good situation, folks. And this is all because of Netanyahu's bad policy. Now, I don't think you can take anything Netanyahu says at face value. I think Netanyahu is probably one of the more disingenuous foreign leaders on the face of the earth, maybe the most. So whatever Netanyahu's real agenda is, we can only speculate. To me, I think it's about greater Israel. I think Netanyahu wants his legacy when he's gone to be, he expanded the state of Israel. He got the West Bank. He got the Golan Heights. He got the Gaza Strip. He shaved off parts of Syria. He shaved off parts of Jordan. He shaved off parts of Lebanon. I believe that's what Benjamin Netanyahu wants his legacy to be. And there's nothing that will stand in his way. And maybe that's a theological thing. Maybe it's an ideological thing. Maybe it's a purely political thing. Maybe it's a combination of all three. But that's what I believe Benjamin Netanyahu is going for at any cost. At any cost. And so anything that stands in his way, ultimately, if he has control over it, he's going to try to get rid of it. Okay? Anything. Understand what I'm saying? And maybe anyone. I don't know. But you are not getting any of this information. There is a total blockade on the truth coming out of Israel. A total blockade. And it's all done intentionally because you can only have a positive view of Israel. You can only have a positive outlook on Israel because as soon as that changes, guess what happens? We're already seeing it. Nobody wants to support it anymore. Nobody wants to see another dime of foreign aid go to Israel. Nobody wants to see another candidate controlled by AIPAC. Now, the cat's already out of the bag. And that's why things are getting so ugly right now. That's why things are getting so nasty right now, because it's already done. Pandora's box is open. It's over. You can't put the cat back in the bag. Now, you can try to control as much information coming to the United States as possible, but it's not going to change the trajectory. It's not going to change the damage that's already been done. But this is why it's so frustrating having this debate in America, because most Americans don't even have a single clue about what is actually happening on the ground in the United States of America. The protests of Netanyahu in Israel, you don't hear about them. The Israel economy struggling right now, being propped up by the foreign aid, you're not going to hear about. The IDF soldiers that are now getting a bit disenfranchised themselves, not wanting to serve, going and testifying to their own government, that they're now going through PTSD and committing suicide because of the atrocities that they've had to commit. You don't hear about any of this in the American media because your job as an American is to be ignorant and continue to fund the. But people don't want to anymore. So the fight over this is nasty. And the people that love Israel and the people that are loyal to Israel, including the American Israelis or American Jews, they will do anything to protect what they view as their homeland, what they view as their promised land. They'll do anything to protect it. And you have to give them some credit for that. You do. It's very rare that you have an American with such an ideology or commitment. It's very rare. But it's very common for the Israeli cause. But this is why things are getting so nasty. Because the big secret is no longer a secret. The big secret of what Netanyahu really wants to do is no longer a secret. The big secret about what American foreign aid to Israel really does is no longer a secret. And the big secret about what's really going on with the Gaza Strip since October 7th and on October 7th is also no longer a secret. So now that the secret's getting out, and now that there's some big names talking about the secret, making it public, this is why things are getting so nasty. This is why things are getting so intense on the subject. But make no mistake about it, folks. All you're going to see from here on out is excuses and coping and everything that goes along with it because the American people have decided we're done. We're just done. We're done with foreign aid. Really, we're done in general with foreign aid, but specifically we're done subsidizing the state of Israel. We're done with the military-industrial complex client state of Israel. We're done with Israeli influence over our Congress and foreign policy. We're just done. So all they have now is the different excuses like, oh, you need Israel, whether that's a theological argument or an economic argument, both fall flat, both have zero tread. Or, oh, you're an anti-Semite, you're a Jew hater. No, not true. We're just having a foreign policy discussion, foreign policy disagreement. That's all it is. That's all they have, folks. That's all they have. But these are people on the woke right. And just like the woke left, they show the exact same pattern of behavior. What did the woke left do? We just went through the whole thing. What did they do? Woke left. They tried censoring. They tried character assassination. They tried physically attacking. They tried lawfare. They tried imprisonment. And when they fail at those 5 steps, you know what they do next? They kill you. That's the woke left. And now the woke right is going through these exact same phases. That's just the truth. Don't shoot the messenger.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
It's the fastest 3 hours on the internet. It's the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
Do you guys see what Bryce Mitchell said over the weekend? Whoa. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but I will tell you this. You're going to hear it eventually, but probably not from Bryce Mitchell, because this is a conversation that is inevitable. All right. Third and final hour here of the Owen Report. Done pretty good getting through just about everything here. There's no way, you can't do it in 3 hours. You try your hardest. I think we're going to try to do super chats with producer Dom today. We don't have that many that are incoming, so we just didn't want to dedicate too much of the show space to it. But we did have some super chats. We want to try to promote that stuff. And then it gives me trouble because I always forget this. But please do follow us on X at Owen Schroyer 1776. Please give us a follow on Rumble, rumble.com/Owen, and on YouTube, the Owen Report, youtube.com/@Owen Report. So give us a follow on all of those platforms. That really helps us. By the way, if you like just listening to the audio, and sometimes it can get a little rough when you're trying to go through video platforms to listen to just the audio, we have the audio archives for this show on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spotify. So just go to the Owen Report on any of those audio platforms. We archive it immediately after the show. So if you're somebody that just wants to listen to the audio archive after the show, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spotify. And by the way, the links for all of these are pinned on my X profile page at Owen Schroyer 1776. You just go to my page, go to the pinned post, and you can find the links to all of it right there. Producer Dom might have something to say about that Bryce Mitchell clip later. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if he's not feeling camera shy today. You never know. All right, let's just start pile driving through news. I was supposed to do this last hour. I didn't. So let's just do it now. Boo to spooky chocolate prices. It's the year of chewy, fruity Halloween treats. So because of the tariffs on chocolate, the price on chocolate candy has gone up quite a bit. Now, they're doing some measurements since the pandemic, but 10% is the actual number on Halloween candy. 10% more expensive this year than last. And that is mostly because of the chocolate prices, because of the tariffs. Why trick-or-treaters may bag more gummy candy than chocolate this Halloween. You may like that, you may not, but that's because the chocolate is up in price. More than half of Americans are cutting Halloween candy spending as prices surge. You know, the issue used to be you couldn't get Halloween candy. That's what the issue used to be. It'd all sell out days before Halloween. You'd go to the store shelves, you'd go to the candy shelves, and they were empty. Now that's not the problem. Now the problem is people can't afford the candy. That's not a problem that you want to have. Unless it is you who is a last-minute Halloween candy shopper, then you might say, okay, cool, I can go get Halloween candy the night before Halloween or even the day of, and it's still stocked because nobody can afford the candy. Not good. Not good for the U.S. economy when you can't even afford Halloween candy. But you know what? You know one thing that happens sometimes when you can't afford junk food? Maybe you get a little healthier. Maybe you lose a little weight. Is that too much? Is that a little insensitive? USA Powerlifting responds after Minnesota Supreme Court rules disqualifying trans athlete was discrimination. So let's try to make sense of all this craziness. Organization cites scientific research showing males have up to 64% strength advantage in powerlifting. That's it. I'm surprised it's only 64. So they say, oh, it's discriminatory. It's discriminatory not to let men compete against women. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is 100% discrimination to not have men competing against women. Now, tell me why that's a bad thing. You see what they've done? They've bastardized these words into weapons, like discrimination. Well, is discrimination inherently a bad thing? Because discrimination is actually a very important part of any successful society and civilization. In fact, it would be imperative for any civilization or society to be discriminatory. That's right. Do you think we discriminate against criminals? Of course we do. We put them in jail. Would you discriminate against somebody you know was a bad influence on your family, on your kids? Of course you would. You wouldn't want them around. Do leftists, do liberals, do progressives discriminate against people they view as racists or bigots? Of course they do, because in their eyes, they should. So they say, oh, powerlifting, USA Powerlifting discriminated against a man because they wouldn't let him compete in the women's division. Yeah, that's right. So we have to defeat this. We have to defeat these words as weapons. USA Powerlifting needs to come out and make a statement and say, you're damn right we discriminated against a man competing against women. And we have no issue with this. We are extremely discriminatory of any man that tries to compete in women's spaces or, God forbid, go into the women's locker room. Yes, we discriminate against that, and we should. Thank you, and good night. That's the statement. That's the response. But these people are so afraid of the left, and they're so afraid of these words, maybe even afraid of their own shadow, afraid of their own reflection in the mirror. You're damn right we discriminate. You're damn right. And we should, because that's a normal thing for a functioning society to do, is to discriminate. If I know that you like to go to house parties and steal things, then I'm going to discriminate against you and not invite you to my house party. Does that make me the bad guy? I know that a man has an unfair advantage against women in sports and athletic competition. And so therefore, I'm going to have a women's division, and we're going to discriminate against men because we want it to be fair for the women. Is that a bad thing? They've weaponized this word, folks. They've weaponized it. Minnesota Supreme Court rules USA powerlifting violated human rights of transgender athletes. It's a human right. What is this not insane? So where does the logic go? If a man is allowed to powerlift in the women's division, then should the man be allowed to box against women? Well, according to the Minnesota Supreme Court, yes. In fact, it's the human right. It's a human right? What? Do you see how insane these people have gone? They are just gone. And this is why I'm so done with it. It's like, find as many solutions as you want, okay? Clearly, the Minnesota Supreme Court liberals need to be gone. I don't know what you need to do. This is clown world. This is a joke. This is an abomination. This is an insult to all things that are normal and decent. It's your human right. It's my human right. I demand to be the starting guard on the New York Liberty women's basketball team. It's my human right. Now, they could come at me. They could say, well, you're a man. You can't compete in the WNBA. I'd say, well, Minnesota Supreme Court says it's my human right. Or let's go with the Minnesota Lynx. That's the actual WNBA team in Minnesota. I think St. Louis legend, Napheesa Collier. I don't know if she still plays for them. I think she does. Napheesa Collier, St. Louis legend basketball player. Fantastic. Probably has won WNBA MVP awards, I would guess. So Minnesota Lynx, I say, it's my human right to compete on your team. Well, they might say, we're going to discriminate against you because you're not good enough to play on the team. Well, that's my human right. They might discriminate against me. They might say, you're a man. You can't play in women's basketball. I say, well, the Minnesota Supreme Court says it's my human right. Do you realize how ridiculous this stuff is? And you can't expand this logic. You can't stretch this logic. It always has a wall where it stops. That's how you know it's not logic. If it can't be applied universally, it's not logic. It's propaganda. So it's like, what do you do? What do you do as a country? What do we do as a civilization to stop this madness? Because yes, politically, for us to stop this, it would require levels of extremism that I don't think people want to go to. And I'm not talking about violence. I just mean we would just have to null and void all of these spots. And we just have to say, look, anybody on the Minnesota Supreme Court that thinks it's a human right for a man to compete against a woman, you're just gone. You're just gone. We're removing you from the court, or I don't know, maybe we're throwing you in jail. I don't know. It's just, that's what I'm saying. It's just, you're done. We're done with this. You're out of your mind. You're mentally retarded. Maybe we put them in an institution. I don't know. But clearly you're not just derelict of duty. You're intentionally destroying all things normal and decent. You're intentionally destroying the integrity of the Minnesota Supreme Court. And there is no legal basis for you to say it's a human right for a man to compete against a woman in a professional private sports league. It's ridiculous. So that's your one option, is political extremism, which is a little nasty. We don't like that. But yeah, you could just go political extremism, not violent, but just remove them. Say, all right, Democrat judge on the Supreme Court that says this is a right, you're gone. We're done with you. We're going to institutionalize you. You've clearly lost your mind. You're retarded. And then there's the accelerationist method, which would be, okay, find out a man who's willing to kind of go through a bit of a public humiliation ritual, but for a good cause, and say, all right, you're going to go and compete in the women's powerlifting division, and you're going to go break every record, shatter it, and you're going to go out there and you're going to stand number one on every podium of every weightlifting class, and we're going to show how ridiculous this is. So go ahead and step up, and then you'll never have another woman champion ever. And then maybe then the Democrats, the liberals, the progressives, maybe then they'll say, okay, this has gone too far. We were wrong. Or what do? They just let men dominate? Do they create a new division of women's sports, but just for women with that asterisk? Do they have another division for trans athletes? I don't know. But this is obviously ludicrous. It's gone too far. It's out of control. So something has to be done. So you're either looking at an option of political extremism and just saying, we're just taking you off the Supreme Court and throwing you in a mental institution. That's how outrageous this is. And then finding some sort of some other political means and mechanisms to reverse this crap. Or you just say, oh, okay, fine. Accelerationist, put in a power lifter, put in a male power lifter, and just let him dominate the whole thing and win every record and win every medal and never lose again and never a woman on the podium. And just say, okay. And you can even have him be apologetic. You know, after he breaks every single women's weightlifting record, he can go to the press and he can go, you know, I'm sorry I had to do this. I don't believe I should be competing against these women, but I want to make a statement for every American to see how ridiculous this is, that men have a human right to compete against women in a private professional athletic competition. So yes, I am now the greatest women's female lifter, even though I'm a man. So you can thank the Democrats for that, or you can get them out of power and reverse the decisions they made. It's your call. Or I can do this till I'm 70 years old, probably. Those are your options. But I refuse to live in the land of the nonsense. This is some good news. Mortgage rates fall again. What is going on here? There we go. Mortgage rates fall again, reaching lowest level in a year. They're still way too high. By the way, this is only to this goes back to January 2023 on this graph, by the way. So this doesn't really give you a full picture. This is the lowest they've been in about 2 years, a little over 2 years. This is the lowest they've been. They're still way too high, but this graph is not very indicative of where they're really at. But they are going down. And other economic news has people believing that they're going to continue to go down. So let's hope that they do, for the sake of the American people and for Americans trying to buy a house. Let's hope that they continue to go down, because it's just wild. It's just wild, these interest rates, man. The national average for 30-year mortgages was 6.26% as of October 22nd. I mean, folks, that is an outrageous number. Now, it is down now. It is down. I think this graph is a little outdated now, but it is actually down a little bit more since then. But that is outrageous. And I don't like government being involved in decisions. I really want to be a true free market absolutist. I really do. But you know what? We don't have a free market absolutist country. It's just true. Even if we wanted it, we don't. There are rules against monopolies and other predatory economic practices. And so even as a free market absolutist, as I might be, you know, you have to pick and choose your battles. It's kind of like, you know, I don't like what's going on with Trump bombing these boats. I don't like it at all. But it's like, it's not a hill I'm going to die on. But a free market absolutist would say you can charge whatever interest rate you want. But somebody that believes in a free market, but also having laws against predatory economic practices, you should probably have a law that caps any interest rate at 5%. And if you're going to go higher than 5%, you're basically, you know, you're going to the mafia. Because that's what it's turned into. It's all turned in. The government's turned into a mafia. The banks have turned into a mafia. It's all it is. It's a shakedown mafia. And they're all getting their cut. And the American consumer and the American taxpayer, the American homeowner, is getting crushed. So it's like, I understand why you can't do it, why you can't do a cap on interest rates, especially now with the debt. But really, it has to be done. It's outrageous. You should make a law in America. Any institution, any official recognized institution should never be allowed to charge more than 5% interest rate. Never. Folks, they had it up to 7.7% on a 30-year mortgage. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was 7.9. It was 8%. 2 years ago, 8% on a 30-year mortgage. That is criminal. You are a crook. You are a banking crook. But I get why they have to do it. The economy is in such bad shape. The debt is so bad. If we could ever fix this, we've got to, you can't do more than 5% interest rate. It's criminal. Straight up criminal. Now, there's some interesting learning to be had out there. I want to give a shout out to somebody who I suggest giving a follow. His name is Brett Pike. I've been following his stuff for a while at Classic Learner on X. And he's the founder of the Classical Learner Homeschool Company. If you are a homeschooler and you're not following Brett Pike, you need to immediately. He's as good as it gets when it comes to just independent lessons and short-term lessons on major issues. Brett Pike is as good as it gets. So I want to introduce you to Brett Pike in case you have not learned of him yet. I want to encourage you to follow him because he takes a lot of these things and explains it in a very educational, kind of almost elementary method. So he's talking about federal income taxes here, but you know what? He's got another one. And I'm going to actually call an audible on my own show. I'm calling an audible on my own show because I was going to play Brett Pike explaining federal income tax. Maybe we'll do both. But he recently came out, more recently this weekend, with a video explaining why the cost of college and housing has skyrocketed. So this is Brett Pike at Classical Learner explaining it as good as anybody.
How is it that American public schools relentlessly pressure young people to go to college without teaching them why college is so expensive? Because they don't teach about the Federal Reserve Bank, the 16th Amendment, or the Great Society. Well, the Great Society sucks. And the reason it sucks is if you were to go back to 1960, you would find that people were able to work their way through college. And the reason for this is people only had so much money, so the colleges had to keep their tuition down in order to compete to get students. So after the Kennedy situation, the man who benefited the most from the president's death said, we need to fundamentally transform American society. And one of the ways he planned to do that was government-backed college loans and government-backed housing loans so that there would be equality and justice for all people. So what it really did was take the limited supply of money that was available to colleges, which forced them.
By the way, do you hear some of these words? Equality, diversity. This is woke before woke even existed. And look at all the damage it's done.
To keep tuitions at a reasonable rate. And it created an endless money drip. And that allowed colleges to raise and raise and raise and raise tuition because no matter how much the tuition went up, there would always be an endless amount of people who were able to take out loans and pay the colleges, which is the same thing that happened to the housing market. And of course, one of the major winners in all of this was the banks, because as the cost of college and the cost of housing would predictably skyrocket, generation after generation of American would be forced to go deeper and deeper into debt. And the money at the top loved this, because going back to 1913, a small group of powerful bankers were given a monopoly over the printing of the dollar. And America has been a debt-based economy ever since. And this is why I write books on the corruption of the banking system and how information is controlled. And we study both the monetary system and financial literacy from a young age. Because
all right, so he's getting into some of his lessons in the homeschool world. Folks, I'm telling you, Brett is as good as it gets when it comes to just short lessons that are very informative like that. Especially if you're a homeschooler, you need to be following Brett Pike. You know, you hear this stuff and how much of it sounds like it's still echoing to this day. You know, you hear that stuff, it's like, damn, from the 60s, we're talking about the assassination of JFK. We're talking about the centralization of economic power. We're talking about the banks. We're talking about the Americans then getting inflation and skyrocketing costs of what used to be easily accessible industries like education and the housing market. And how much of this just continues to echo to this day. It's like you keep going back in time and you find the source and you realize why it's gotten so bad. But people don't know the history, and more importantly, they don't know the real history. And not to get too existential here, but let's just call it what it is. We now understand, I think, in modern America, we now understand, after going through a lot of things, how much we get lied to better than ever. Whether that's the narrative about Trump when he was running for office, whether that's the narrative about COVID in 2019 and 2020 and the vaccines, whether that's the narrative about what happened in the 2020 election, whether that's the narrative of even something so trivial like the White House construction on the East Wing, where Trump takes down a carport and they say he's literally destroyed the White House. It's like, so we can kind of understand this stuff in real time better than ever, but we don't really have it. We don't really have the understanding that this has been going on for our entire lives. That the American people have been getting lied to for their entire lives, and that these lies have caused institutional change, which has continued to hurt the American people. Now we're able to kind of catch up to it in real time and almost move as quickly as it does. So it's like now it's actually a competitive race versus the lies and the propaganda and the American people being informed and understood. Now it's like actually a competitive race with social media and X, which they tried to eliminate. They did. And Musk, I would say Rumble and Musk, and you got to give credit to InfoWars too. You got to give credit to InfoWars too, because if what we did at InfoWars in 2018, if we would have just given up and not beat the censorship and not beat the lawfare, then I don't know if any of it exists. I don't know if Rumble exists like it does. I don't know if X exists like it does, because that was the big experiment. Was, can we eliminate InfoWars off the map, and can we wipe Alex Jones out of the media? That was the entire purpose of the censorship and the entire purpose of the lawfare. And still today, they have failed. So without that, I don't know if Rumble gets to where it's at. I don't know if X gets to where it's at. It was that pioneer spirit. It was that founding father spirit. It was that energy of InfoWars in 2018 and beyond that I think really sent the message of, you're not going to silence us. You're not going to wipe us out. And they failed. But again, it's just like, we're competitive against the propaganda, at least as far as velocity is concerned, for the first time in our lives. We're actually competitive against the speed and the rate of the propaganda for the first time in our lives. So you think about the lies told about, maybe we don't go that far back, but maybe you just look at post-World War II history. You think about the lies told about World War II. You think about the lies told about World War II afterwards. You talk about the lies about JFK's assassination. You talk about the lies of the policies after JFK's assassination. Like, we couldn't really, as a people, as a country, we couldn't keep up with the velocity and the veracity and the rate of all of these lies until they made permanent institutional change that we now realize were major crippling policies to the United States of America. Now we realize that, but we couldn't keep up with it at the time. Now we can keep up with it. And we're still we're still maybe at a competitive disadvantage because we don't have the institutional power, but we have enough human power and enough human capital and enough human interest that now when they try to pull this stuff off, we can actually have victories. But we will never know. The biggest victory that we probably had that nobody will ever know about is stopping the vaccine mandates. You were supposed to have a COVID vaccine right now, maybe multiple COVID vaccines. And if you didn't, you were supposed to be cut off from society and cut off from civilization. You weren't supposed to be allowed to go to school. You weren't supposed to be allowed to go to work. You weren't supposed to be allowed to go to the gym, a ball game, any of it. They had it all laid out. Why do you think they had those stupid little vaccine cards and your vaccine passports? Folks, that was the plan. We beat it. We beat it. We literally beat the medical tyranny. Now, we're not going to get an award. The powers that be that wanted to put you into a global medical tyranny, they're never going to admit that they lost. They're just going to reshuffle the deck and try again. Who knows? Probably before the end of this decade. I would bet on it, actually. I would bet before the end of this decade they go for another global medical tyranny initiative again. But they failed. That was really the biggest victory in the modern media sense, where we actually have the velocity and the human interest to actually defeat these agendas. And we did. Believe me, as soon as I'm sitting here on this Monday, October 27th transmission at 5:35 local time, Austin, Texas, you were supposed to have at least one mRNA injection inside of you. And your entire access to civilization was dependent upon you taking that shot. And we beat them. And now you are still free to not have an experimental injection to get access to society. That was a huge victory for us. And believe me, none of that would have been possible if we didn't defeat the censorship and defeat the attempts to silence us beyond just the censorship, the imprisonment, the lawfare, trying to kill us. Just understand that. Just understand that. All right. I want to go to some other stories here as we're honing in on the end of the show. 25 years of death, over 14,200 murders in Democrat-run Chicago since 2000. This goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of the show. Now is the time. The Republicans can pounce on this opportunity right now if they want. Now is the time. Now, they're not going to do it because they're visionless and they're spineless and they're weak and pathetic. But now would be the time. If you want to get in and you want to edge into some of that major blue territory in the major blue metropolitan areas, now is your shot. Now is your time. Now, they're not going to do it, but now's the time. Now's the time to do it. You could have their ear. People are dying, and now they're not about to get their food stamps. Now's the time where Republicans could go into these areas and actually get some votes and change the culture politically, but they won't do it. They're such cowards. And these stories mostly continue to go uncovered. The violent crime in the inner cities. They don't even solve these crimes anymore. America's declining homicide clearance rates. Look at this. Now, my guess is that most of this is because the rates are so high now. The homicide rates have just increased since the 60s. So, of course, success in clearing them goes down just because the number is so high. But yet still, you went from 90% of homicides getting cleared to now you're encroaching on 50%. It's almost half. It used to be almost all. Now it's almost half. Seems like that might be kind of a problem. No? And you'd think with technology it'd be easier. Matt Van Swal is doing deep research into why they're claiming that these crime rates amongst whites are increasing. Well, he went and he found out that all of these Hispanic criminals are being labeled as white. Now, he did a whole deep dive onto this, and he found hundreds, and then others found thousands of different examples of this going on. Now, to be clear, it used to be that Hispanics actually were counted as white. They just added Hispanic to these demographic options not too long ago. Probably even after the 90s. I think it was probably after the turn of the 21st century, after the year 2000. So actually, it used to just be white or black. And so if you were Asian or Mexican or anything, you were still counted as white. So I have no doubt that there is a lot of, now that Hispanic is considered an option there, that they are still labeling a lot of them white. Now, whether or not that's some other agenda or some other oversight, I don't know. But the whole crime statistic thing is all mixed up. The whole crime statistics demographic database is really messed up. You have all kinds of errors. Then you have people that get entered as white that aren't white. And I mean, it's just, it doesn't make sense. But I do see a lot of people that are mentioning this and covering this. And Van Swal did do a deep dive, and he found thousands of these cases. But that actually used to be normal in the 90s and beyond. Before that, it used to be anybody that wasn't, I guess, black or African American, they just considered you white. So that's kind of a new thing. But yeah, when they say, oh, well, look at all the white crime. Well, actually, probably half of those are not even white. But for whatever that's worth to you. Congressman Abe Hamadeh. Beautiful resolution. American flags are the only flags that should fly in the halls of Congress. That's why Congressman Hamadeh introduced House Resolution 167 to establish uniform flag standards. So you know what that means. All those Qatar flags, folks, all those Qatar flags in Congress are going to have to come down. That's right. All the Qatari flags. Of course, we're being facetious. There's only two foreign flags that I see flying in Congress, and that's Ukraine and Israel. I don't see any other foreign flags, but they fly the Ukraine flag. They fly the Israeli flag with pride, and they prioritize those countries over our own. So good job, Congressman. I agree. Only American flags should be proudly displayed in Congress. Only American flags. And I would say from here on forward, if we get this bill passed, anybody that flies a foreign flag should be censured and removed from Congress. Maybe even spend a night in jail. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little extreme on that. But that's how I feel. Now, it's ironic. Randy Fine is also apparently introducing a bill to end dual citizenship. But again, where are all the dual citizens coming from? Qatar? Yeah, that's funny. All right, Russia has just tested a new weapon, and they're claiming it's maybe the most powerful nuclear-powered cruise missile ever, low-flying, terrain-hugging, and can basically travel the entire planet. The Baruvestnik, meaning storm petrel, a type of seabird. Trump calls Russia's missile test inappropriate, but is Putin's nuclear-powered weapon actually a threat? The main reason that no one else has tried to build something like this is that it doesn't really have any use. So there's debate on whether or not this weapon is even real or not, or if Russia isn't just pulling a head fake. But they claim they have this, basically it would be the range would be the entire world for a nuclear warhead on this missile. And now Zelensky is saying that Trump needs to sanction Russia, more sanctions on Russia because of this new missile test. That's what Zelensky is saying. President Trump also made this statement over the weekend. Pregnant women, do not use Tylenol unless absolutely necessary. Don't give Tylenol to your young child for virtually any reason. Break up the MMR shot into 3 totally separate shots, not mixed. Take chicken pox separately. Take hepatitis separately. Take the measles, mumps shot separately, or wait till they're older. Take vaccine in 5 separate medical visits. President Donald J. Trump. Pretty good advice, I'd say. And he wouldn't be putting that out there. He wouldn't be putting that out there unless he was absolutely sure of it. So that tells you something. Now, remember my theory on what's going on in Nigeria now with the Christians being murdered, which is no doubt happening. But why all of a sudden is it reaching American politics? Why all of a sudden is it reaching American media? There's 2 reasons why this is happening. One, because the Israeli lobby that is getting all the attention and all the heat right now, they want to distract from that, and they want you to think about Muslims again. They want you to start hating Islam and Muslims again and only thinking about that and ignoring any Israeli influence. So there's the one agenda. But I also think that the Nigerians have realized that the American politicians are whores. And they're like, wait a second, you mean we can cry victim and we can make tens of millions or even billions of dollars? So I think the Nigerians are trying to get in on the grift. I think the Nigerians are trying to get in on the giant money laundering slush fund operation that is United States foreign aid. And then the Israeli lobby, which is maybe the most powerful in D.C., they need a distraction from themselves, so they're using the Nigerian distraction as the distraction that they so desperately need. So take a look at this in Nigeria, and then a U.S. Congressman, Riley Moore. I think that this totally proves my point on both of those fronts. I think it proves both points, actually.
To be outside performing burial every day, and they expect us to silence. Now is an order. Nigerian government came out openly and denied there is no massacre, there is no genocide of Christians in Nigeria. And look at it today. Is there any Muslim here? United Nations, I know you're watching me. American Senate, you are watching what I'm doing. I'm saying.
So now they're doing direct calls again. These are direct calls to United States Congress. Send us money. Send us aid. See, the Nigerians get it now. Hey, you mean we can play the victim card here and get billions of dollars in aid? Now, I'm not taking away of the Christians being murdered. That is definitely happening. And it is a very sad situation. But let's be, if we're doing fair coverage here, the entire continent of Africa is having problems, folks. Okay? I mean, so it's just like, where does the foreign aid end? Where does the charity of Americans' hearts end? Are we just supposed to be a charitable cause for the entire planet now? Because that's what it is. But now I'm telling you, this totally proves both my points. The Nigerians are trying to get in on the grift, and the Israeli lobby is using it as a distraction from the focus being on them.
Yeah. Special advisor to Trump. Now, please tell Trump to save our life in Nigeria. They are killing Christians in Nigeria, massacre Christians. If they say they kill Muslims, Muslims are being killed. By who? By Muslims.
Oh, so you're urging Secretary of State Rubio to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. Okay. What do you really want Trump to do about this?
Well, what we want is for the killings to stop, and it's a systematic campaign of persecution by Islamic terrorist organizations, not just Boko Haram, but IS West Africa, and also this Fulani tribe that lives in that.
All right, you get the point. You get the point. How many Ruths do I have today? I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I told you Trump judges the entire economy right now at the stock market. That was confirmed over the weekend. I told you everybody sees Mamdani as the future of the Democrat Party. Mal Musk sees it, agrees. I told you the whole thing about Nigeria was meant as a distraction from the Israeli lobby having all the focus on it, and Nigerians now wanting to get in on the big grift of U.S. foreign aid. Now that's totally confirmed. Man, we are hitting Ruths left and right, man. We are hitting Ruths left and right. Never doubt me, folks. Never doubt me. I will never steer you wrong. It's amazing, isn't it? By the way, that story I had earlier on the state of Israel's economy, there's another big story on that. How Israel's war economy defined economic predictions. And it's because you're bailing out the entire thing. You are bailing out the entire Israeli economy. But they don't want you to look at that. See? They want you to look at Nigeria. Yeah. That's what they want you to be staring at, is Nigeria. And then you need to send more aid there because you're not suffering enough. All right, a couple more things here. Hey, Dominic, he's always in the digital studio with me. I don't know if he wants to come in. Do we have any super chats? We got 10 minutes left in the show. Do you want to prepare yourself to do some super chats today? I kind of want to get in the habit of doing that. I got a couple other things I'm going to read here. Oh. All right. We'll see if we end up hearing from Dominic. I didn't tell him, I didn't make him be camera ready. I've got him handling some other stuff, more administrative business stuff. So I'm not really, his burden of work here is not as much on camera, and I'm kind of forcing him more into that role. which, by the way, since I'm saying this, we are going to get through the first month after this week. We're going to get through the first month. And I do want to thank everybody for sticking around here. I think we finally gotten into form as far as the content and the delivery and the format is concerned. I think we're finally getting to where that is meant to be. We're still isolating and fixing some of, let's say, the technical issues. I think we've pretty much got most of that taken care of. Some things might rear their ugly head every now and then, but I think we've pretty much got all of that taken care of. Now, when we enter month 2, I think I might reinvestigate some things that I'm doing or that I'm not doing. And there could be some bigger changes in month number 2, but I wanted to get the first month under the belt, really just get the technical stuff figured out, and then start to look at some other things we can or can't do, including maybe bringing in some other people on the show, maybe making Dominic, the producer, a little bit more on air role, and then working out some of the stuff on the back end, like, clips and stuff like that. But this is all big budget stuff. So hopefully after the first month comes in, we can reevaluate some things, reevaluate the budget, and then use the second month as more of a stepping stool to where we're going to get in the third month. So I just want to say thanks and appreciation to everybody who stuck around through some of the technical errors and waiting for me to kind of get back into the on-air form that you're used to and all the normal news coverage. Really, once we get through this week into the second month, you'll really start to see it start to just really look cleaner and be more of a show format that you anticipate. But then the second month is going to kind of be, all right, what can we build into the third month to improve some things, make some things look a little better, a little more professional, and start to expand things. So that's what I'm hoping. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in, everybody who's financially supported, everybody that supports our sponsors. That's the next big thing, is expansion. And I'd like to see rapid expansion. But first, I have to be successful doing this, and then we have to have a budget for expansion. So just a quick show note there. All right, let me, this is funny. So this is now, we've been seeing this for a while. We've been seeing this for a while, how they love to, they love to demonize the white man, right? It's just anything inverse reality. Just demonize the white man. The white man is bad. The white man that built modern civilization and society that everybody enjoys is bad. You know how it is. So now they're running these ads. You've probably seen it before, where they want the perception to be that the white man is bad. So the white man is the sexual predator, or the white man is just in general the bad guy and the social bully, and all the other stuff that you've seen. So there's a couple new examples of this. And this is in England, in the UK, where it's very well known that if you're going to be a victim of a crime, specifically sexual in nature, that it's a very high likelihood that is a migrant from a foreign country and not an actual Englishman. So of course they run the ad demonizing the white Englishman and making the hero the foreign-born migrant in this latest propaganda piece out of the UK. Watch this.
It's over there. I've got to go. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you later.
You all right? Where are you going then? Oi.
Go away. You're so immature.
Are you going to tell me or not?
Come on, man. Let's just go.
Boy, where are you going? Oi, why don't you come over here?
Go away. Just leave me alone.
Come on, I know you want a bit of this. Why don't you come over here? Oi, I'm talking to you.
You okay?
You right, girl? Give us a smile.
I just want to get home.
Laugh, you moody cat. Hey, leave it out, mate. Sorry.
Just hate it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, look, my bus is over there.
That's how it all goes down. That's how it all goes down. Just a total inverse of reality. Demonize the white man. Everybody knows, pretty much all of Europe, but it's like if you're going to be sexually harassed or assaulted on the streets as a woman, it's coming from the migrants, okay? But they have to just inverse that. Here's another one. And it's always a non-white woman that's the victim too, which is also statistically not the reality of that situation. But here's a little more, as if that wasn't enough. Here's another one for your entertainment.
The man in the grey suit is staring at you. Would you report it? It's him again. You can feel his breath. Would you report it? Is that his bag? He's not carrying one. 1 second.
Oh my.
2 seconds. Would you report it? He finds an excuse to lean into you. Would you report it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
He pushes his groin right into you. 90% of unwanted sexual behavior on public transport goes unreported. You can report anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Report it to stop it.
Yeah, and where is it mostly coming from? Because you don't seem to be interested in accurately depicting that either. Now, look, this isn't to say that white people aren't capable of committing a crime or that there aren't sexual predators out there that are white. Absolutely not. Obviously, that is the case. The point is that they're obviously trying to intentionally demonize white people on this specifically, because on this issue specifically, it's not white men that are doing it. It's the migrants. It's mostly the African migrants is what it is, or Muslim migrants. That's who's doing it. Everybody knows it. So they have to completely reverse that in this weird woke liberal ideology way to say, no, it's still white. See, we're still woke. We're still going to blame the whites even though they're not doing it. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's a little sensitive issue out there, especially for women. But it's like they don't even care. See, the left is more interested in demonizing white men than they are in actually stopping criminals. And I guess that's really the problem, right? They're more interested in demonizing white men than actually stopping criminals. 3 illegals arrested for murder of woman in Austin. This is crazy, including Mexican who entered U.S. via Biden's CBP-1 app. And who has to defend it? The liberals. They have to defend death. Why? Because that's what you have to do when you're woke. So remember that to the right wing. To the white wing. To the right wing, the white wing, the white wing, the right wing. To the right wing. Remember that. As soon as you find yourself defending death, you are now woke. As soon as you find yourself defending death, you are now woke. Just remember that. Just always remember that. By the way, still news coming out about this 3I Atlas comet or whatever's going on here, awakening an interstellar wanderer, surprising nickel detection in comet 3I Atlas. You know, I wish we could put aside all this stuff like war because, you know, we could probably be in space like lassoing these things. You know, we could probably be on Earth like lassoing gold comets and asteroids and everything, but we're too busy fighting each other and figuring out ways to blow each other up and hate and new ways to spread hate. So we don't get to do that, unfortunately. Interstellar Comet 3I Atlas could help protect Earth from dangerous asteroids. They're studying it. They're trying to figure it out, how to deal with it. The mysterious Manhattan-sized comet 3I Atlas in the sky. Some think it's alien technology. Some think it's aliens, actually. Eric Swalwell wants the next Democrat president to tear down whatever ballroom Trump builds day one. You know, obviously that would be ridiculous and unnecessary. The whole thing has been paid for by private dollars, and it's going to be a beautiful addition to the White House, whether you like it or not, whether you support it or not. It's going to be a beautiful addition. It's just true. But it's just like, what kind of a freak? I'm going to tear it down day one. You're just going to destroy perfectly good architecture. You're going to destroy a perfectly good functioning building out of spite, out of pettiness. You're pathetic. This is everything the Democrat Party is in a nutshell. Destroyers. And destroyers of things that are good. They just can't help themselves. You know, some people just can't help themselves. They just like to destroy. That's all they do. Maybe that's all they're good at. Maybe that's all they're good at. All right, we're going to sign off. We're going to have to shame producer Dominic. So don't blame me when your super chat is not being read on air. It's not my fault. That's Dominic's role to do that. But in fairness, this is why I was explaining it earlier. I've already got producer Dominic tasked with a lot of stuff, a lot of administrative stuff and technical stuff. So I basically told him to prioritize the administrative stuff and some other technical stuff and not to prioritize coming on air and not to prioritize the super chats. I wasn't really expecting people to want the super chats, but I've been hearing a lot of people saying, hey, we're doing super chats, we're doing Rumble rants, and you're not reading them. If I read the comments while I'm on air, I won't be able to do the show. So that's why I'm not doing it. It looks like we do have one up here. This is from Gringo Tomato. I was Gringo Loco. You're Gringo Tomato. I'm Gringo Loco. Keep up the great work, Owen. Cheers from a house cracker. Hey, thank you, Gringo. From a fellow Gringo. Depending where you are, you might be a Gringo. If you're in Brazil, you might be a Gringo. And I got to give, but this is why we give Dominic a hard time, but we'll give him props today. I said, hey, will you run a news ticker on the bottom of the show today? This is the kind of stuff that I've tasked him with. Will you run a news ticker on the bottom of today's show? And I want to start doing a news ticker on the live stream. Done. Beautiful. Brilliant. Love it. Great work. So we're slowly working all the way through this stuff. And like I said, folks, once we get the first month under the belt and we handle some technical stuff, some kind of launch stuff, then we're going to relook at some things, reevaluate some things for month number 2 in order to decide where we can build, where we can expand in month number 3, or if not month number 3, which would be December, maybe not month number 4, which would be the start of the new year. And maybe we just start to launch new stuff at the start of the new year. But we are working on some other things to add things to the show, make it better, expand what we can do here, expand the team. Because right now it's just a 2-man team. I mean, I basically run everything. And then I've got producer Dominic kind of handling some administrative tasks and some business tasks behind the scenes. So first month, everything goes swimmingly. Everything looks good. We can look at the second month, reevaluate budgets, everything else, and then hopefully start to expand by month number 3, if not month number 4. That's my goal. So you're kind of slowly getting that, but this is the beginning. You know, this is the beginning. I plan on doing this show for the next 50 years, let's say. So you're in month number 1 of a 50-year project. I mean that literally. You're in month number 1 of a 50-year project. That's how I look at this. And the Win Network is not just something I did for branding, not just something I did for this show. Again, this is a 50-year plan, folks. I have a 50-year plan to build something here. This is just phase 1. This is just month 1. This is a 50-year plan till I'm in my 80s still doing this show. So I appreciate your patience, if you even could call it that, because I think we've done a pretty good job in the first month, quite frankly. I think we've done a pretty good job. All right, I want to thank today's sponsor, Blackout Coffee, folks. Remember, go to blackoutcoffee.com/Owen and use coupon code Owen for 20% off your first order. Take advantage, folks. We're giving you 20% off your first order. Take advantage of that. Why wouldn't you? It's basically free money for stuff you already like the best coffee in the world. Blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. We thank them for sponsoring today's show. All right. That does it for today. God bless, Godspeed. Hey, it's what they call the Sports Eclipse. MLB, NHL, NFL, and NBA. All on air tonight. Every single one. If you're into that kind of stuff. If you're into degenerate sports gambling, it's a fun time for you. God bless, Godspeed. Busy week, by the way. Busy week. We got guests Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday after the show. So we'll see you 21 hours. Same time. Same channel. God bless. Godspeed. Owen Schroyer signing off.
All my favorite places. My city, it big cool down.
reduced to parking spaces and on the way to go. Oh, I'm high up.